to it. Go ahead and bring Goliath on. Ain't no giant, I ain't gon' fire on. Catch a fade, you, I'm wrong, I'm gone. Y'all can catch the wave that I am on. I am icon, y'all are wide wrong. Think that I'm a reconcile bonds, so ain't nothing to it though. This is on me, ain't got much to do with who you know. Keeping it true to form, turn the L's into a milli though. But they already knew that those farewell to your opinions, know that he is something. This is all me, ain't got much to do with who you know. Yeah, keeping it true to form, but they already knew that, yo. Here we go.
I'ma show you who I am. Unbreakable. I'ma make you understand. Watch me escape.
Welcome to the October 2022 edition of League Night. I'm your host, Brian, and I am joined tonight. We're the dynamic duo with Adam Silverman, 2021 North American DipCon champion. I believe that's correct. And recent attendee with me at Weasel Moot. It's really good to hang out there and to see many of you. So really excited for tonight's show. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. It's great to be back. It's been a few months since I've been on League Night, so I'm really happy to be doing this with you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm always glad to have you, but especially tonight, we had a couple of unexpected items come up. So we are a cast of two. Our normal four is it's like an Agatha Christie movie over here, or maybe some diplomacy players got some knives in the back or whatever. But two of us, we're going to run through. Good news is we've got 5 virtual Diplomacy League games to cover tonight. And because there's only 2 of us, the downside is we are not going to be covering the French Diplomacy League as previously planned. We'll find a way to make sure we get some of those games covered in an upcoming event. But 5 games, I'm really excited. We've seen a lot of action in the Virtual Diplomacy League this year, Adam. We're going to go ahead and start out by taking a look at our top 7. So in first place, we've got 2021 VDL champion Nicolas Taillet remains in first place. He was not satisfied to simply coast. He increased his already large score by 4.5 points, creating even more separation between him and the rest of the field. Taking a different approach, Tim Crosby took the month off, but managed to stay in second on the strength of his early season scores. Brandon Fogel continued his upward momentum from the previous month, moving up an additional 6 places into third, overtaking Jackson Roberts, who did not play last month. 2022 Diplomat of the Year, Jason Massbaum, also appears to be getting some end-of-year momentum, moving up 2 places into 5th. Places 6th and 7th are incredibly close, separated by just 0.2%. Early season leader Christian Brown did not have a great night last month and reduced his average score by 2.9 points. This was enough for Christian to drop all the way into 7th place, just under Jason Bennett, who did not play. And in our bubble watch, we've got a terrifying list of diplomacy heavyweights, including Farron Jane, Josh Hennessy, Matthew Tatanchi, Craig Mayer, John Anderson, Peter McNamara, and Karthik Konath. With 2 more months of play before the championship, any of these players are capable of moving into the top 7. But Adam, I'm going to call out 3 players specifically. Like to take a look at Farron Jane. Farron has only played 3 games and basically just needs a survival to overtake Christian's current score. So if Christian wants to stay and maintain that all-important 7th slot to make it into the championship game, he'll have to add more points. John Anderson only has 2 scores, so he's got the most growth opportunity of all the players on this list. And Adam, I could never not talk about 2021 Diplomat of the Year, Peter McNamara, who's currently sitting just outside of this season's DBN Invitational Tournament. A high score in the VDL is one of his best chances at qualifying, and he has some recent momentum in the league. So I'm expecting Peter to be hungry enough to take some risks in the remaining games of the season.
We're coming down to the wire here, right? So this is only we've got today, and we've got November and December. So ultimately, folks have folks have got to play, right? I mean, ultimately, if you look at the folks in the top 7, most of those folks have 4, 5, 6 games. The people on the bubble have 2, 3. There are a few with more games than that, and that's not to take away and say that the folks on the top aren't amongst our best players here. But you got to play to you want to be in the game. You got to play, and I'm hoping we're going to see a lot of those folks in the 7 to 14 range and the top 7 as well playing today, so we can see how they fare against one another.
Yeah, and I think our players know it. Last month, I think we only had 3 games played. This month, I think players are starting to feel the pressure a little bit. We've got 5 games being played today. That's one of the largest of all of the months for Virtual Diplomacy League this season. So, yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. I'm curious to see how things shake out tonight. Every once in a while, I'll inadvertently get a couple of see comments in Discord or Twitter or something like that, and I've had nothing today, so going in fresh, excited about it. So Adam, this time of the year, like, you've played a lot of championship or level games and tournaments, and leagues are a little different, but it's really not a whole lot different than just a very, very long tournament. So this is kind of like coming in towards the final 1 or 2 rounds at a big tournament. How do you tend to approach this point at an event? How are you prepping, and what's your attitude going into it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in league play myself, but in tournaments, I think the key is to go into each game and take it as a game, right? It's, you can take it as part of a meta, but ultimately what you really want to do is take it as its own individual entity, and go into the game with the attitude that, hey, this is a clean slate, so however badly I did on my last game or however well I did on my last game, none of that matters. Really makes no difference. For the strong players, we'll get bad results sometimes. That happens, but you got to go in with the confidence and say, hey, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to give a solid performance, I'm going to do the best I can. And we see what happens. We take it one step at a time, and usually in a game like in these types of games, I tell myself, I got to get out of the gate, right? I don't want to be the targeted person at the beginning of the game, because I know if I can survive the first couple years and I'm not the person getting taken out, I can make some stuff happen in the mid game and hopefully put myself in a position to have a good result.
Yeah. Something I remember having a conversation with Chris Martin when I was first kind of moving into the competitive diplomacy hobby. And he had a group of, at the time, newish players. We were all kind of just talking. And he said one of his most important goals at the beginning of every game is you just got to get to the dance. And like, if you can get to the mid game, you can make things happen. But that getting to that mid game is so important. And for these players that are in the top 7, can I avoid being targeted? There's a big difference between being a newer player who people are like, oh, I'm glad it's not that guy winning, I'm happy to let this person win. And then once you start to get those reps and you start to get that reputation, and suddenly you've got the target. And learning how to play from ahead in an event is a very different skill than moving up. So I'm really, that's one of the storylines I'm going to be watching tonight for any of our players that are in that top 7. How do they play with that target on their back? How do they respond to that pressure? All right. Well, since it's just the 2 of us, we're going to move quickly tonight, and we're going to skip a lot of our normal intro and openings, but I do want to call out a couple of ways that you can play diplomacy and get involved before we get to our games tonight. We'll start out with some leagues. Leagues are still very active, and for those of you who are following the Diplomacy Broadcast Network Invitational, that is DBN's invitational tournament that happens every February. We take a lot of the events, and basically we're trying to create a tournament of tournament winners. So those who win an event will have score highly, and then if you come in second, you get a little bit more. Third, you get a little bit less than that. So over time, the more that you play, the more events you score well at, your score will go up in the DBNI, and that will give you qualifying points to receive an invitation to the Diplomacy Broadcast Network Invitational. The reason I bring that up now is many of our tournaments have ended for the year or the season. There's just a few left. However, most of our leagues will not have their scores count until the end of their season. So we're really in an exciting time in the DBNI events because this is kind of our championship season where everybody's starting to play their big games, determine who's going to win the leagues, and those scores will come in late. And oftentimes what we've seen in our previous seasons, these leagues can massively shake up those DBNI standings before those scores are released. So if you want to get points, that's a very long way of saying this is still one of your best way to get those DBNI points, besides the fact that these are great events to play in on their own. So Nexus Press League, this will be one of the largest leagues that we have. The winner of that game or that league, I believe it plays through the end of December, and they will receive a very, very large amount of points because of the size of that event. It is an extended deadline event, and they have waves that start every 2 weeks. If you're looking for a fun way to just get in some extended deadline online press games, that's a fantastic way to go about it. Tour of Britain is ending their season in October 29th to 30th. I believe I saw Gary Sturley, the organizer of this event, challenge people to see if their reign will be longer than Britain's current leadership. And right now, our own Zachary Moore is leading the Tour of Britain. If that does not seem right to you, go.
That doesn't seem right to me, Brian.
Yeah.
Not seem right to me.
The French Diplomacy League, which we were going to be covering tonight, but we will have to do some coverage another way, has a couple of more games left. They've got 2 events in the month of November. Virtual Diplomacy League, I forgot to update. We've got a date change, so it is no longer the 19th, it is the 12th. I will add that to the notes of the show as well. So November 12th, go either play French Diplomacy League if you speak French, or join us in the Virtual Diplomacy League otherwise. And in tournaments,
Brian, before you switch, just for folks who are maybe newer to the broadcast, under the type of leagues, XD means extended deadline. Those tend to be longer games, 24 hours or longer per turn. And VFTF refers to virtual face-to-face, which are the games hosted on Discord. Just want to get that out there if there's folks watching who are not familiar with the lingo in this broadcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Always looking out for others. And in tournaments, we've got the big one, World Diplomacy Championship at Carnage. For this event, it is in Mount Snow, Vermont. This will be the face-to-face World Championship, November 3rd through 6th. Got a really, really good amount of players showing up, and highly, highly encourage everyone that is interested to go to that event. The Italian National Championship will be taking place in Gambolo, Italy on November 18th to 20th. The Virtual Diplomacy Championship, so this is the World Diplomacy Championship for virtual play, will be held December 16th to 18th on the BWDC Discord server. And that the final game of the 2022 season will be Cascadia, Vancouver, Canada. That is a face-to-face event, February 4th to 5th. All of those scores will count towards the DBN Invitational. These are tentative dates. We are still finalizing it, but at the moment it is looking like February 18th and 19th will be the DBN Invitational semifinals. For those of you with an automatic qualification, go ahead and put that on your calendars. For everyone else who is in contention, put it on as well. And then February 25th to 26th, we've got 2 events. It will be TotalCon in Boston. That is a face-to-face event. And we will likely also have the DBN Invitational Championship game on either the 25th or the 26th, depending on what is more convenient for our players. Anything that you want to say about any of those events, Adam?
Well, there's a small one coming up in 2 weeks in Vermont, so I would be remiss if I didn't comment on that small little tournament that's going to be happening at Mount Snow, right?
Yeah.
Will you be there, Brian?
I was planning on it. I'm not going to be able to, unfortunately, but I know a large amount of the DBN crew will be there. And for those of you that are able to make it, I'm jealous. And please say hey to everybody. Carnage is always a fantastic event. Dave Miletsky puts on a really, he's just an excellent host. It's a really fun, relaxed, competitive but relaxed, like a really good balance of making everyone feel welcome regardless of your expertise.
Absolutely, it's such a great tournament, and for those who I know it's kind of last minute at this point, but if you've been thinking about it and you're kind of nervous because of the World DipCon moniker, don't be. It will be a very competitive tournament, but it will be such a wonderful environment. I can't say enough. So if you've been thinking about it, go check for making arrangements right now. To turn the broadcast off and go do that. And I don't say it lightly.
All right, you can come back and watch this. You may not have time if you don't get on that VWDC or the World Diplomacy Championship registration. So, all right. Well, Adam, I think that is where we're going to wrap up our opening, and I'm going to go ahead and transition us over to our games for tonight. So tonight we have 5 games in the Virtual Diplomacy League, and we've got several folks that are scored highly in the DBNI rankings. These will be updated soon. We're going to be releasing some updates. We're planning to do that before the World DipCon. But as it stands right now, Ed Sullivan is ranked number 1 and is, I believe, playing on one of the boards tonight. Riaz Varani, frequent guest analyst on this broadcast, is ranked 11th, playing tonight. Tim Crosby, who's been one of the biggest stories of this season, currently doing extremely well in the Virtual Diplomacy League, I believe in 2nd place. And I think he's also 2nd or 3rd place in the Tour of Britain. So we're definitely expecting, once those points come in, to see a much higher rank for Tim Crosby than 20. Liam Stokes is in 27th. Jackson Roberts, Russ Dennis, Ian Rudnick, Farron Jane, Zachary Moore, and Christian Brown. All of these names, with the exception of possibly Ian, have grown familiar to most of us over the course of the past couple of years. Adam, anything you want to say about any of these players or any storylines that you think their placement in the DBNI might create tonight?
Well, it's notable to me that we only have 3 players out of the top 20 who are actually playing in the virtual league tonight. Now, I know a lot of the people in the top 20 are in there for various reasons, and it's not just the virtual league. It could be other league play, or it could be predominantly face-to-face play. But I think that's kind of interesting. And, as I was saying earlier, you got to play to get in. And I think some of these folks who are kind of on the bubble, remember, top 28 are going to get into the DBN semifinals. So some of these folks on the bubble, which is really everyone on this list below Liam, they're playing for their way in. So they get some good scores today. They'll be seeing daylight for DBNI, and some of the folks who aren't here, may get pushed out. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those folks, whether we can see some movement.
Yeah, and I think Liam Stokes will be a player to watch tonight. Liam at 27th. It is very unlikely that score will be enough for Liam to stay in the DBNI top 28. Liam can be a very fun player to watch. Can sometimes play on the chaotic side, but is one of those rare players that can use that chaos to his advantage. So I'm going to be watching to see if he's taking some risks tonight, which can always be fun for us as an audience. So, all right, let's get to our games. First up, we have VDL game 112, The Nightmare. All of these games tonight, in honor of Halloween, are named after horror movies. So first, in Austria, we have a new player named Swack. I'm going to say that that's a distant relative of Shaq or something like that. England, we've got Wes Ketchum. We need to update location, no longer in Chicago. In France, Adam, would you mind reading these out?
Yeah, we've got Matt Lynch from Dublin, Ireland in France. We've got Rauno Vesky from Estonia playing Germany. In Italy, we have Farron Jane from Austin, Texas. Russia, we have Jackson Roberts from California. And Turkey, we have Baron of Kirkholm from, I don't know, Kirkholm maybe. This is an amazing international crowd. It is so much fun to see boards that just have a diversity of players like this. I don't know all of these folks. Some of them are familiar to me from previous video games. Some of them are new to me. But all in all, it's just great to see people mixing it up. I'm sure a lot of these players have not played together before either. So that always makes it just really exciting when you're on a board with 3, 4, 5 new players. I find in the diplomacy world, it's small enough that if you've played enough games, that doesn't happen too often. And I suspect that's the case for this board. So we might see some real chaos or some really interesting dynamics. Perhaps cautious play is often what happens in those kinds of situations as well. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes you get a mixing of metas, which is always fun to see. And I do agree. Sometimes it can be some really unexpected, fun, exciting things, and sometimes people can play it safe. Yeah, let's keep an eye and see what we see. All right, Adam, I'm going to have you go ahead. I'm going to do play-by-play for this one and have you do analysis, and then we'll swap for the next game. No. Oh, sorry about that. Really going quick on the
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, on the transition today. All right, so first up, spring 1901, we've got pretty standard moves overall. I would say actually this is one of the most standard openings that I've seen in any VDL game recently. I think the one that is not the most common opening is the move of Italy to Trieste, but as we've talked about in this meta, that is also not uncommon. Something to keep an eye on will be to see whether Ionian moves into Aegean for the tempo play, where they borrow Trieste, or do they go ahead and try and do 2 builds for Italy, which gives them more flexibility.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd probably comment on is the French and the German moves. There's actually a little bit of unusualness there. One is you see the French moving into the English Channel, and when you see that, and you also see the Germans moving Kiel to Holland rather than to Denmark, this is highly suggestive of a sea lion type opening. And for those not familiar with that particular term, a sea lion opening typically involves the French supporting the Germans into the North Sea in the fall of 1901, either disrupting an English convoy or forcing that fleet to retreat. So I'm expecting we may see something like that in the fall, though the French did go to Picardy, so convoying up to Wales is also certainly possible. But this looks like an FG against England here.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. This definitely does not look good for Wes Ketchum. And in fact, that's exactly what we see. This is a very classic sea lion opening with France supporting the Germans into the North Sea. We do see Wes moving to Wales, which is a pretty typical defense for that. There's not a lot else he's going to be able to do except beg Jackson Roberts to try and help. There's really no one else that's going to be able to help with that. I also really like Matt's decision to go ahead and bypass Spain, going ahead and taking Portugal. That's going to give him some flexibility and a guaranteed second build. In Italy, we do see the convoy over to Tunis. So we've got the double build from Italy. I like the decision to move Trieste to Serbia, and the Baron of Kirkholm played the defense for this correctly, in this kind of situation, it is usually a good idea for Bulgaria to move to Serbia to try and bounce that move. What's unexpected, though, was the move of Austria into Budapest.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the Austrian situation, usually what you see in this position is Serbia getting supported into Greece rather than the normal Greece getting supported into Serbia. And that guarantees that Serbia is left open. But yeah, it's a very smart move by Baron if he's sniffed out what looks like a key Lepanto, basically in Austria, in Italy, agreeing to push that Italian unit through. The only other thing I would highlight from the fall is a really smart move by Wes Ketchum in England, which was his decision to move North Sea to Denmark to bounce the Germans out there. He's really putting himself in a position to try to work with the French here, which I think is the right thing for him to be doing. It's not going to be easy, but I think diplomatically it's probably his best bet. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the retreat to the Norwegian Sea. I don't think he necessarily needs to be there, given that in this situation, if Russia's not on your side, you are pretty done anyway. Mm-hmm. So you have to faith there. So you could just go to Edinburgh or Yorkshire in this situation, but it's hard to critique that.
Yeah. In winter of 1901, we've got an army build from Jackson Roberts. So it is in St. Pete, which isn't great for.
He only had Moscow and St. Pete open, so I think that's the build you want to see if you're Wes. You just don't want to see you don't want to see the fleet there, right? So it's okay.
Way better than that. The only thing that would have been better is fleet St. Pete South Coast. That's a very strong commitment. So then we've got Baron of Kirkholm moving or building fleet in Smyrna when facing this kind of parent AI cooperation. That is probably the ideal move, in my opinion. We've got a fleet in Brest, which is most likely going to continue an attack on England, but there's a chance that it could be used against Germany. But most likely, if England and France were going to work together, we would have seen a different build.
Yeah, I think there's two quick things that I would comment about. One is the Italian builds are very interesting to me. Normally in this situation where there's an AI giving up Trieste, you see two fleet builds, not the army in Venice. That army is really not that helpful for going after Turkey. So it will be interesting to see what Farron decides to do from this standpoint. The other is that if you look at the English and the French build, they're not exactly looking like they're the natural builds in this situation, but it is going to be hard for them to disentangle. I think Wes's pitch to Matt is not that easy because Matt's army is all the way stuck in Portugal. So I don't know, Brian. What are you doing at this stage if you're Wes? What's your pitch?
Well, you've seen the effectiveness of my pitches, but.
Never been in this situation, Brian, right?
Never. No, I think you're exactly right. You just got to pick someone. You've got to try and say, look, I'm going to defend against one. I'm going to make a choice. And if this were me, I'm not the best in this situation, but I would be saying, hey, France, I tried to work with you. Unless I was getting some seriously good positive vibes from France, I would now be switching to Germany and saying, hey, Germany, you need to help me or France is getting all my dots. And that's, I think, the only leverage that Wes has left.
Yeah, and I think your pitch to Germany can be like, hey, I can get you into Belgium, right? I can cut the English Channel. I can cut cut other things. This can definitely happen, and we can push you forward from there. So there is an argument to be had.
Yep. And as far as the Italian move, I love playing Italy. I love following up with this army. It gives you so much flexibility. Farron is in the driver's seat in the East right now, in my opinion. And it makes me wonder if maybe she said something to tip Baron of Kirkholm off about the move to Serbia. Was that intentional? If that's the case, I'd be expecting a move of Venice into Tyrolia and perhaps a move in against Austria. it could just be
There's a
taking
great
advantage.
there's a great attack on Austria. You can convoy to Albania, support yourself to Tyrolia, and move that fleet to Apulia so it gets into the Adriatic in the fall. It's absolutely devastating to the Austrian. It's a great play for Italy if you have Russia or Turkey with some confidence on side and aren't going to get steamrolled once Austria is done.
Yeah, this is looking really, really good for a potential Italy-Russia combo in the East. But no, we've got a continued cooperation between Italy and Austria. I don't hate it, even though I do think that it's still really good for a potential Russia-Italy. But there's no reason to rush it. You've got a good spot, and especially if Austria is supporting you into Serbia, yeah, I'll take that every time. Yes, please. Not great for Baron of Kirkholm. I think this answers the question. I don't think that they were working together. I think that was just good defense from Baron moving to Serbia. If they were working together, then I don't think this is the result we would have seen. In the West, we've got looks like defense from West Ketchum, and as predicted, well, no, I was wrong. He's playing defense in English Channel, moving to Yorkshire. I like the defense. What do you think?
I think these are great plays by Wes, right? Because if the only thing that really crushes him here is a convoy directly into Edinburgh, and even that there's room to take it back by cutting North Sea and taking it back in the fall. You lose Liverpool in that way, but you got to figure. It's not the most likely move for Germany to do here, and I think West sniffed it out and did a great job.
Yeah, and the non-move of Russia in the north is also telling. I don't know what it's telling, but it's telling.
Yeah, the only other thing I might have considered here is putting a little bit more faith in Russia, and saying like if he's going to take Norway, he's going to take Norway, and maybe think about dropping into Skagerrak and maybe even moving out to Clyde or something like that, so you have some more units behind the back. I'd probably be thinking about that, but it depends on my negotiations with Russia in this situation.
Yeah, I feel like I would need to be pretty confident in Russia for me to be willing to do that, because you spread yourself out. This to me is a little more defensible. But
You do, but maybe you make the pitch though that hey, me putting you in Denmark is a better play than you taking Norway off me, right? So yeah. Why don't we just do that?
That's true. Definitely gives you more diplomatic leverage. Fall 1902, we've got looks like England staying in the West. We've got West taking North Sea, choosing to defend Edinburgh and risk Liverpool. And Matt Lynch does not take advantage, slowing things down, kind of playing the slow game, moving into the English Channel, forcing that. Really, really lucky, or maybe not. Maybe there was some diplomacy involved, but great set of orders for Wes, with the downside that there is now a Russian army in Norway. So there is going to be a disband. In the East, it looks like we've got Russia and Turkey cooperating together, taking Syria from the AI, at the cost, though, of losing Bulgaria. So not sure in the long run who is coming out ahead here. What do you think? Who's got the advantage in the East, Adam?
It's always very difficult with the AI versus RT situation, right? I mean, but I actually think Russia is going to be in the best position. I think this is going to set up for a great IR in the long run, because Italy is going to have their units in all of the wrong places. Austria is going to have their units in the wrong places, and Turkey is just going to get slowly carved down. Being sort of stuck in Serbia with nothing behind in Bulgaria. So the situation in the north, I think, is rough for Wes. He's done everything correctly. He's written the great orders in both the spring and the fall turn to defend. I'm not sure I love Jackson's decision to take Norway. I think what Jackson wants is to sow some chaos in the north until he's ready for a build, unless he's planning on building a fleet in the north right now, which I would be surprised to see, given the commitment in the south. But unless you're building that fleet in the north, I really don't think you want to do this. I think you want England on your side, just creating a chaos with Russia, with France and Germany.
One thing I failed to point out was the move of Germany into Tyrolia. I don't know that that's particularly effective, but it's certainly fun. So in winter of 1902, there is no Northern Fleet build, as you correctly predicted. We've got a Southern build in Moscow by Russia. We disband Norwegian. That's probably the right move. We've got another fleet in Brest. So Matt Lynch is not giving up on a desire to attack the English. And we've got another fleet build from Kiel. So nothing good for West Ketchum in the west. In the east, we've got Farron Jane building Fleet Naples, looking as if I would suspect a continued attack on Turkey. Spring of 03, we've got a shifting of units in the north from Jackson Roberts, swinging fleet around to Norway, army back into Finland, Moscow to Livonia, moves perhaps setting up for something against Germany. And well, I don't know. I could see that just being defensive against Germany. Germany is moving that fleet into Baltic, not going against England. Adam, I'll come back to you on that if you think that's a good idea. We've got more great defense from Wes against Matt and the French. Correctly moving into Wales to bounce the convoy of the French into Wales. And in the east, looks like we've got Turkey taking back Bulgaria, but at the cost of losing Aegean and setting up for east. I think that's still advantage AI, particularly with the armies shifting around. Adam, I'm going to start with you. Germany moving into Baltic, good idea?
Wow, there's so much to unpack on this turn. This is the issue when you're Germany and you have an army stuck in Denmark, right? It's not really where you want to have an army. And so Germany's choices in this case would be to convoy Denmark down to Kiel through Helgoland and shift Kiel up to Denmark. That's actually probably what I would have preferred to see right here than the move to Baltic, because the move to Baltic basically, there's no way for Jackson to take that other than aggressive, whether that's the intention or it's just the goal of not wanting to move Denmark because you don't trust the Germans and the English not to work together to take it. But either way, it's an anti-Russian move. And as you can see, by Moscow to Livonia, he has a unit, an army, and maybe even two to send in your direction. So I'm not sure that's really going to be helpful to Germany, especially, with the otherwise having some focus in the West. Let's talk a little bit about the real mess of arrows and supports down in the Balkans. This is really, I think, quite interesting. And the tactics here are really actually quite difficult. And I think, Farron is probably doing the right thing. Farron and Swak are probably doing the right thing here, but it's really hard to make progress either direction when you're AI versus RT, and what you end up doing is swapping centers for a while, and it's a slow game. But maybe that's okay because the West is not a super fast game either. But ultimately, Matt only needs to guess right once, and once he guesses right once, and West is down to 2. That's ball game, and you're gonna have a big France coming at you because Germany doesn't seem to be in a position to be getting much gains.
Yeah, once again, we've got one of my favorite theories in diplomacy. That's the Wicked Witches theory, where the success of the Wicked Witch of the North and the South, that being England and Turkey, tend to have strong correlation between each other. When one is struggling, the other tends to struggle. And that's because they share neighbors that kind of influence each other. And we do see that it doesn't always happen that way, but in this game, this is a good example of how that can happen. But there are a lot of parallels between what's going on in both of those theaters. We've got two somewhat defensible countries, obviously Turkey being a little easier to defend than England, slowing down some coordinated efforts by their neighbors. And yeah, it's an interesting place to be, especially in the East.
I find it hard to imagine that at some point Farron and Jackson aren't going to get together and say, "Hey, wouldn't this just be better if those units were ours instead of Austria's?" And that's going to be that.
Yeah, I mean the upside for Jackson in the delay right now is if Farron and Jackson were to work together, I think it would be advantage Italy from this position.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think you're probably right.
So Jackson would have to be, hey, I'm going to get Budapest, maybe Vienna, and all of those gains are going to have to come in the north. So then the question be, where in the north are those coming from?
Yep.
All right. In fall of 1903, we've got, let's start in the east. We've got Italy successfully moving into Serbia finally. Austria continuing really good, solid defense. Not much more they'd be able to do. We've got successfully defending both Greece and Budapest. And then we've got Farron taking Smyrna as well. So loss of Bulgaria, but pickup of Serbia and Smyrna definitely advantage Italy in this situation. We do see Jackson moving into the Black Sea. I'm going to be really curious to see what that ends up happening. Would not shock me if that is a sign of, I mean, technically you could use it to defend, but I suspect that that's going to be a sign that they're changing alliances. In the West, we see the French successfully convoying into Wales and playing the slow game, some more setting up at this point. I think it is inevitable that the British Isles are going to fall. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. And Jackson moves the army into Sweden, which doesn't really tell me what's going on. Not sure what that's going to be. What's your take, Adam?
Yeah, let's start in the West. I think there's a general philosophy in the game of diplomacy that in the spring you defend position and in the fall you defend centers, and West has done a good job of that. Of course, if that's the philosophy, then in the fall when you're attacking, you attack position, and then you wait till next year to get the centers, and that's exactly what Matt does here. So he rightly convoys into Wales here, which is successful because it's not defended, because West makes the decision justifiably to defend Liverpool here. I think the Germans were not attacking Russia, right? They were just trying to play very cautiously. They could have gotten that fleet into Denmark in the spring, but they elected not to make a more cautious move, and here they go in the fall. And I think Jackson is just covering his butt in Sweden there, right? You can tell by the fact that he actually bounces Prussia when he could have very simply gone easy in Prussia right there. Jackson's clearly not ready to commit anything against the Germans until they actually show some aggression. I think that Jackson and Barron overthought themselves here. Serbia is defensible in this position, and they decided to make some attacks that were very unlikely to work in the first place. So that costs them here, right? They lose Serbia as a result of that. Smyrna was actually not inevitable to go, but they would have had to make a guess on cutting Aegean instead of supporting Greece.
In winter of 1903, we've got a build of an army from Turkey and Fleet Naples. Everything else stays the same. Spring of 1904, we do see in the West, Liverpool does fall to the French. We've got some cooperation between Russia and England. Don't know if that was expected or not, but I kind of like that for Jackson. We see France moving into the Med. I think Farron saw, hey, I've got enough. It's time for me to go. I don't know if Matt sniffed that out or vice versa. But in the east, we do see the effect of taking Serbia, which is often the key to the Balkans. Bulgaria falls. We got to move into Trieste and Venice. AI is rolling.
This is nuts. Okay. I mean, I can't say enough how nuts this position is and how amazing this is for Farron. Um, so let's go over what just happened here. And I think, Brian, you hit most of the points, but let me sort of lay it out. And I think there's maybe one or two that you missed. Number one is France has made it into Liverpool and just dropped into the Western Med and moved Marseille to Piedmont, as you need to do in this position when Italy is doing what they're doing. But notice what the Germans did. The Germans went into Ruhr and Burgundy, right? And so now France just moved completely out of position. So the Germans can now make their play against the French. So the French no longer can be that anchor to slow down the Italians. They're going to have to pull everything back. And so Farron is not going to have any issues coming from the West anymore, which really she should have had. Then let's look at what's going on in the Balkans. The Austrians continue to support Farron forward. So selflessly sitting at 3 centers while Farron grows to, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. I don't know what she's going to be at after this turn. Because if you're Austria, what do you need more units for, right? Wow.
Yeah, I completely missed the German moves. That definitely turns this game upside down. I mean, poor Matt. I would say poor Matt, quote unquote. He's sitting in London, Liverpool, but man, we've got Belgium at risk, Paris at risk, Marseille probably is fine, but
well, you lose Belgium and Paris here, right? And you're probably not going to hold London either. So you're going to lose one. You're only going to hold one of Liverpool, London. You're pulling one this turn.
Yeah, wow. And I don't know if that's good for Jackson either. Really,
well, Jackson, from a balance of power standpoint, it's not, right? I mean, Jackson, and again, this was part of my point about why I didn't think Jackson should have taken Norway in the first place. But I mean, Jackson needs to balance this board out. So he needs to be having friends, right, and make Farron the enemy of everyone else and get the board targeted at her rather than him, just starting to attack people and go for centers, which there is a tendency to do from this position.
Yeah, and as you said, advantage Farron Jane, and we see successfully defending Smyrna, picking up Khan, supporting Swak into Bulgaria. I love that, but coming behind and picking up Greece.
I mean, come on. What is Baron giving up here? I mean, the move from Ankh to Arm smells like he's giving Jackson the last dot. That's got to be arranged, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a really interesting spot. We'll get to who do you like in a minute because I have no idea.
Is there any question?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's obvious, but West Ketchum, we've got taking back London, taking back Liverpool, but not able to hang on to Eddie. What do you think about Matt's play here, Adam?
I don't know why you go to Spain here, first of all, right? Spain really doesn't do anything. Going back to Mao is probably what you really want to do in this position. Piedmont to Tyrolia makes some sense to me, though. I mean, honestly, maybe you want to take a pot shot at Venice. I'm not sure it hurts you to do that, and Farron is so far ahead in this game that it's not going to screw up the balance of power. Or if it changes the balance of power, it's at least not going to be in her favor. So. I don't know how I feel about that. Everything else, is fine. I mean, he's taking a shot at trying to tap Yorkshire and Wales for the supported attack on Liverpool. That's all okay. But I'm not sure that Spain is the real one that I'm curious about. It just doesn't do anything. You're parking your fleet, and you're not putting yourself in a better position to move up. Maybe you're just going to disband it now, I guess, but. I wouldn't, because that leaves you. Actually, you can't disband it because that leaves you with one fleet. So you got to disband Tyrolia probably.
So we are +2 for Germany, +2 for Italy, +2 for Russia. From a score standpoint, it's fairly close. You've got 9-9-7, Germany, Italy, Russia. Adam, I'm feeling that your team Farron. Is that a correct read?
I feel like Farron's position here is really dominating. I think by far she's leading this board, which is not to say that the whole board may not gang up against her and cause her problems, but I think she is completely dominating this game. I think Jackson is doing fine. I think I think he's okay. I actually think Germany is back in this game and is in this game and has some play. The problem is, Farron has no enemies, and Germany and Russia from this position, I mean, they could work together. I think it may be difficult though.
Yeah, it would be a tough one to coordinate, I think. And either way, I mean, it's advantage Farron if both Germany has to attack someone to keep growing, and Farron is in position.
It's France, right? I mean, it's obviously France and maybe England as well, but. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we've got some interesting choices for builds. Adam, let's ignore Farron. She's doing great. I'm more interested in Germany and Russia. What are your builds here?
I mean, I think you've got to get that second Northern Fleet. I think you got to go North Coast here. South Coast is highly provocative. So I think you get the North Coast Fleet out right now because you can, and you can, do it even if you're working with Germany. I think your second is probably Moscow because it's equivocating enough. Sev is fairly provocative to Farron, and maybe you need to scope out the change diplomatic situation before you fully commit down there, though. An army in Sev would not be outrageous to me. I think a fleet Sev is probably not appropriate here, but I would like to see the North Coast army in St. Pete and probably an army in Moscow.
Army or fleet St. Pete?
I'm sorry, fleet North Coast. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Germany is interesting, but I think you put two armies down.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved that third German fleet, but right now you've got such a juicy, squishy French center. That's a vacuum. That's just.
I think you want to plow into France right now and not worry about the fleets. I think, and then you want to again, and you also want to keep the other units out of the middle. And I think putting two armies down will also discourage Russia from sending armies into Prussia, Silesia, which is really your biggest South Coast. Oh boy!
Wow!
Okay, wow! All right! Wow! This is strongly IR. It is strongly wow.
I was not expecting that at all.
Okay. We're happy enough with the results, so we're going to stop. I guess that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's, these are long games to begin with. It feels early to me for sure. Spring 1905 is pretty early to call a game, but if you're satisfied with where you're at, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Wow. Curious. I know we've got a couple of the players in this game in chat right now. Like to hear the rationale for ending. I mean, I can kind of see it. Like, first of all, I'm sure you would agree with me, Adam. There is easy growth for Italy, and I would argue, well, not easy, good chance at growth for Russia as well. But Italy in particular.
I mean, look, if you're Italy and you're working with the Russians, let's assume that you have a trusting enough relationship that you can, not leave yourself fully exposed, but you can sort of move stuff around a little bit. Bulgaria is yours. Probably Vienna goes to Russia. But then the south of France is going to be wide open to you at this point, right? I mean, there is nothing protecting Marseille, Spain, Portugal, maybe even getting around the Med. I mean, that's a long game, and maybe you don't want to do that, and I fully respect that decision. I'm seeing Farron's comment in the chat, and I don't necessarily agree that there was much of a chance of her shrinking from this position. But again, I don't know the diplomatic situation. To me, this looks like a natural IR, and the only way you shrink as Italy is. Is if you're fighting Russia and they somehow get the tactical advantage on you. But that just doesn't seem likely here.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I mean, there was a good relationship with Swack. Like I could see an argument for
Not
not
wanting to,
wanting
yeah,
to
wanting to leave them alive.
eliminate someone,
Totally
and
appreciate.
then this is the real reason. Real life is absolutely a thing that people don't take in mind. People, meaning myself, analysts, when we're looking at this, we are human beings playing a game, and real life is always should come first. And this is not a bad score. I think Farron needed one more score to move into the top 7. 68, a score of 68 will absolutely put her into the top 7 of the league, if I remember correctly. So yeah, we'll take a look at that. Actually, let me just pull that up right now.
This is great, and I think I think hats off to Jackson, to Farron, to Rauno in Germany for really pulling off kind of a nice middle result there. That was pretty cool. There was a lot of really interesting tactics there and some unusual choices, which was fun to watch.
Yeah. So from a league standpoint, this actually was beneficial for both Farron and Jackson, moving Jackson into, well, I think keeping Jackson in 4th, but moving Farron into 3rd. Jackson would have dropped down to 5th, but that score increased to 4th. So overall, good for both of them, and I respect the result for sure.
Fun game.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So let's move now to our second game, Friday the 13th. In Austria, we've got Rano Veski. England, we've got a player that's new to the league. Welcome, Marcus Dodge. Marcus, if you happen to watch this, send us a note either on put a comment or message us on YouTube, or if you are on Discord, you can message any of us on Discord. Let us know your location so we can get that updated. France, we've got the commish, Minneapolis's own Zachary Moore, who is not doing as well in this league, but it doesn't matter because he can't win. We've got a name we have not seen in quite a while. Welcome back, Michaelis Karmaridis. From Great Britain, one of the standout players of the previous season. Cody Green from Fort Wayne, Indiana, joining us again. Welcome back, Cody. Craig Mayer from Montana, the doctor himself, Doctor of Death, is joining us, playing Russia. And in Turkey, someone else that we've not seen for a little while. Welcome back, Roni Mordvanov from Israel. Really, really talented board here, Adam. What are you going to be watching for?
I really enjoyed watching Rauno's play in the previous game. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do in this upcoming game. Marcus and Cody, I'm not familiar with, so it'll be fun to see some new players. Zach is, I think, filling in as the commissioner and GM. I think they needed an extra player, and Zach is an agent of chaos at the best of times, and this may not be at his best. So that will be very exciting to see what he decides to do in France in this game. And Craig and Roni are always fun, and McCarless, it's great to see him again. He's just such a strong player.
Yeah, and I haven't checked the standings in about a month, but I know Roni was doing quite well in the Nexus Press League. So definitely a talented player. And one of the things I always like to watch in games like this, where you've got a mix of newer players and some of the more heavyweight players, is who is able to convince the newer players to work with them. And in some cases, the new players can take advantage. So will the new players be able to take advantage? So let's find out. All right, we've got video game 113, Friday the 13th. Whoops, I did it again. And that's the lesser known VDL cover of Britney Spears, spring 1901. Adam, I'm going to have you take us through our play-by-play.
You got it. Okay, so what do we have? In the West, we have a pretty standard opening by England going, sending the fleets north, nothing into the English Channel. We've got that supported move to Burgundy by France, always interesting to see when that happens. That's usually a result of some suspicions during negotiations there. The East is interesting. The main unusual thing we see is a lack of a bounce in Galicia, and instead we see the Austrians decide to cover Trieste. Well, it wasn't necessary. The Italians didn't go there.
Yeah, the decision to cover Trieste, that to me speaks around and may be used to a different meta than what we have in Virtual Diplomacy League and definitely in face-to-face. That used to be a really common opening. Venice would often move to Trieste, as we currently see, but that was not something that was agreed upon like the current meta. So very unusual to see Vienna cover like that. So right now, I'm sure that's something that there's probably a reason for it. I don't know how negotiations went with Cody, but from a meta standpoint, that is not as necessary as in some other places that you.
But you're absolutely right. There is a school of thinking that that's your best move as Austria, and it's certainly an older school before the Trieste thing became very popular. What's most interesting to me there is that, number one, Craig didn't take advantage. He held in Warsaw. And not only that is, often Russia will use the excuse to not bounce Galicia to do something fun with their opening, to either go up to St. Petersburg. And Craig really elects to play it cautious here.
Yeah. All right. In fall of 1901, Adam.
Yeah, so it's always interesting when Russia makes the choice to bounce the Black Sea and just send one on Romania. It pays off for Craig in this case, but sometimes it doesn't. It looks like probably the Austrian move to Venice is just keeping Italy honest, I would assume, because the Italians convoy over to Trieste. I think interestingly in the West, the English get support for the convoy into Belgium from the French. That's always a telling sign, especially when the French are already sitting in Burgundy. The Germans support themselves into Holland and leave Belgium alone.
Yeah, not looking great for Michaelis in fall of 1901. I will also point out Roni's made the move of Smyrna to Syria down in Turkey. That is the Andrew Goff AI. You can try to come for you, but Italy, you're not getting anything if you do kind of move.
You read the Lepanto opening. I know the Lepanto opening, and you're not convoying to Syria because it's blocked.
Yep.
In terms of builds, I think the things that are notable to me is there's no fleet builds in Brest or London. France builds the fleet in the south. England builds the fleet in Eddy. So that really is very suggestive that there's an EF here. Michaelis is definitely going to have to watch himself. But he does get a little bit of a break because the Russians build Fleet St. Pete North Coast, which is something I think in this position as Germany, you're not upset to see. It's generally not great as Germany, even to get that North Coast fleet, because it can become problematic later in the game. But in terms of the opening situation, I think Michaelis must be happy to see it. The Moscow army could, in fact, even go up to St. Petersburg to cover that, and Chris Craig could elect to play more of a northern game here, which would be quite fascinating if that's what he does. All right. Indeed, that is what Craig does. He forces Norway and does move the army up. Sev to Armenia, Ankh to Black is quite interesting. It makes me wonder if they were supposed to bounce Armenia or something, or if this is some odd arrangement. Hard to say. But in accordance with that, I think. Well, actually, it looks like there's an attack on Turkey. Is that Romania supporting Serbia to Bulgaria? Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's actually an AR against the Turks. An odd choice in that case for him to go to Armenia. I guess that he was expecting Syria to Armenia, and maybe was trying to bounce that. That's my only guess for that rationale, or could have just been a mistake. Meanwhile, the Italians convoy back home. They protect themselves by going out to Tyrrhenian Sea. The French are shifting their fleets north, it looks like, which, well, not necessarily north, but they're certainly not moving against Italy, which is the right thing you want to do as France in this case. And then Belgium, as we always say, is where our English armies go to die, and die indeed that army does, as the French take it with support of the Germans.
Yeah, so I really like the Austria-Russia play here. They've seemed to be on the same page since the very first turn, and we're starting to see that pay off here. I think that based off of the Turks being in Black Sea, maybe advantage Austria right here. And the one that I'm going to be watching is Cody. Cody's been playing it kind of slow. The move to Tyrrhenian Sea kind of speaks towards a possible either move towards Zach in France or just really trying to play defensive. I think my read is it's probably just playing defensive, and that to me is further advantage for the Austrian in the East right here. But it does free up Craig to have quite a bit of confidence in continuing a northern game.
This is a great smart AR alliance here, if that's indeed what it is, and I do hope that we get to see it play out for a few turns. I know that there's sort of a various dynamics of this, and it could shift very quickly. Part of that will depend on the Italians, right? And I think we'll know in the fall, maybe get a sense of what they're doing. It could be, they have a lot of options here, right? They could attack any of three people or none of them, right, and play more wait and see. So we'll have to kind of see what's on their mind and how their negotiations are going.
You'll probably not see this happen because I'm predicting it, but I'm going to go for we're going to see some wait and see.
I think you're probably yep. But they do support the Austrians into the Aegean Sea, so it's not 100% wait and see. Elsewhere, it actually looks like the Turks were trying to convoy to Greece here. That's an interesting choice. I think if you're Turkey here, probably what you want to do is offer the Italians Greece, right? Because you really need to get Italy on side, and asking them to try to give you a dot is not the way to get the Italians on side. Giving them a dot is probably the way to do it, and then you can sort things out later. So that's that. Otherwise, the Austrians, I think, make defensive moves, which makes perfect sense. You just got to build. You want to make sure you leave something open. They don't need to do that self-bounce in Vienna, but why the heck not? And let's see, up north, we see Skagerrak, which is where fleets go to die, and indeed, the fleet dies there. So, we've seen the popular places for English units to be destroyed in two subsequent turns getting destroyed. And here comes Zach, go up into the Irish Sea. I guess the reason Spain can go to Western Med here is because he's getting a fleet build, which will go in Brest to get the English Channel next turn. But in fact, the Western Med is going to have to come back to Mal because Macarlos moved into the North Atlantic. One other thing that's kind of oh no, I guess it's not really interesting that the Germans were attacking Belgium there and that they're out in Helgoland. Yeah, not too interesting.
What is interesting to me is Craig's choice to build the fleet in Sev. I was not expecting.
Oh, Craig, don't do it. Don't do it. No, I guess it's not terrible in this position. Actually, this is one of those rare positions where Craig can probably get away with that build. The second fleet in Sev is so unflexible for Russia. It's really, it's often done too early and not a good idea. But actually, I think Craig has a strong enough position in the north with Germany getting attacked and England also now having some troubles that that he may be able to get away with this. But it probably would not have been my choice. I think an army there would have been better.
I think I would have gone with an army, but I I mean, the temptation for me would have been to build like Army Warsaw or something like that. But I think that this set of builds is implying that Craig is probably correctly not moving against Michaelis in Germany right now. And that's probably a good call.
You don't want to be moving against Germany here. There's no reason to, right? I mean, the dynamic has changed because it looks like Zach is now fighting the English, whereas he was previously working with the English. That all being said, an FG from a position like this, I mean, Germany is not threatening you right now, and you can actually play a fairly long game with Germany if the relationship holds up. And I would be working towards that if I was Craig here. Indeed. Let's see. So Craig goes up to the Norwegian and pulls the army out. Yeah, so Craig is advancing in the north, and looks pretty much in tandem with Michaelis. And actually, what looked like this EF against Germany is now a RGF or RGF against the English, right? Is what it looks like. And poor Marcus is going to have a difficult time here defending against all three of them. But it's great news for Craig. How often are you in a position where you can convoy an army into England with nothing to worry about for stopping it now? I mean, that's just really gorgeous position for him. In the south, he destroys the Black Sea Fleet, as you'd expected. But look at Austria. Austria continues to push into Turkey. They walk into Constantinople. They advance other things. I am not sure what Italy is doing in this position. Why you go to Albania there is very unclear to me. But whatever the reason, but that's a strange way to do it, in my opinion. But maybe I think if you want to go to Albania, you convoy from this position. But it's a strange choice. It's okay, but this is why I think we often do see a lot of Italy sit around at four centers for long periods of time. I think, Cody is trying for something here, but I think probably working with the Austrians and trying to get a center out of Turkey and then using that to potentially attack them with Russian help once the Turks are gone would be a better strategy here.
Yeah, Cody, I don't know your experience playing Italy. This is definitely a power that plays differently than a lot of the other powers on the board. In my opinion, it had a reputation for a really long time of being one of the weakest powers. In this meta, at least, that is not at all the case. It's a very powerful power to play, but it does play very differently. So I would definitely go watch like Weaselmoot last week or last month. We saw in the final round, Saren Kwok played a really, really good Italian game. We also saw in the 2021 DBNI, Peter McNamara also put on a really, really solid performance with Italy. Watch a couple of those games, maybe watch on Legendary Tactics. There's a How to Win with Italy. It's really, really good from world champion Chris Brand, who won with Italy. So some really good material out there to watch and learn, and then just keep playing. That's the single best way to learn. But in this case, I agree with Adam. I don't think it's a optimal set of moves. That being said, I don't know the diplomacy. I wasn't on this board, and We've got Rauno right here. Maybe he's turning aggressive or something, and maybe this is a sniffing something out. Don't know. Fall of 03. What are we looking at, Adam?
Okay, so here we do get the convoy to Albania, which is, which again, I think that makes sense if you're looking to do something a little more aggressive here. Rauno covers Greece wisely after Italy made that play on him on Albania in the fall, and actually supports the Turks out into the Ionian Sea, and Roni takes it because why not at this point? Give me something useful to do and I'll do it. And the consequence of that is, he doesn't defend his home center, so he's going to lose 2 instead of 1, but that is what it is. Elsewhere on the board, I think maybe I'll just staying on the East. I think it's interesting. Will be interesting to see how this dynamic plays out now that Turkey is basically gone and the AR has to figure out what to do with themselves next, which is always kind of interesting. The Germans who had moved into Tyrolia, interestingly, we didn't really talk about that last time, opt to stay there. And it's kind of interesting that they move Ruhr to Munich. And don't self-bounce there or anything like that. That's kind of interesting to me. They cover Denmark. They actually move their fleet. No, are they convoying the French? I can't tell what's going on here.
With Belgium.
Yeah.
Belgium's supporting north to Eddie.
It's a joke support. Okay. So they're taking Edinburgh. It's interesting that they're not convoying into Edinburgh. I guess that's understandable if they're really only expecting to get the single dot out of the deal. But, this is the problem with these 3-way takedowns of 3 center powers, right? What do you do once you've gotten your 1 center out of it?
So out of my read on the West, and who knows if this is right, I think that Zach is worried about Craig. And so I think Zach is signaling to Michaelis with that support saying, hey, I want to work with you. I'm not going to take this. Go get Eddie. And I think we're going to see the 2 of them working to slow down Russia.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't gunboats, so we're not, signaling with fake orders. But the fact that he pulls out of Burgundy for Marseille, certainly, I think to me that sends a stronger message than anything else, right? Like he's, moving out of Burgundy says, okay, you need some flexibility to be able to send units in a direction that's not against me. I'm going to give you that flexibility by pulling down to Marseille. I think that really speaks the volumes.
I also want to call out Marcus's very optimistic hope that Zach is going to convoy with both of his fleets, that fleet down into Spain.
Well, why? Oh, it's to Spain. Yeah, why not?
Love it. All right, winter of 1903.
So this is okay. So Craig built Army Warsaw. The Turks kept the fleet, of course. See, this is interesting, right? The Germans built Army Kiel, which is not exactly, it's not anti-anybody, but it's certainly not Berlin, which is what you want to see if you're Zach. It's not that it's anti-French or anything, but it's certainly not anti-Russian. Curious. There's some interesting choices that have to be made by Russia, Germany, and France right now. And frankly, by Austria doesn't really need to make choices. Austria needs to fight the Italians. The question is, do they have Craig with them or against them? And the army in Warsaw raises some questions. Of course, the army in Warsaw could be Craig saying, I think Michaelis might be coming, so I need to put the army there. But now that maybe Michaelis isn't coming, maybe I can drop into Galicia. I don't know. Very, very fascinating.
Yeah, this is a turn where if I'm Craig, I'm probably, and this is probably more about me as a player than Craig, but I'm going to be really tempted here. Like maybe I cut a deal with Turkey and make Austria lose in Smyrna because I'll have the advantage in Turkey in that place, and start setting up to move against Austria because it's going to be harder to move against Germany, I think.
I don't think you want to fight Germany here. If you really are convinced that Germany is going to go west, I think a lot of what you do really depends on whether you feel like Italy is going to be sufficiently reliable or not. If the Italian player is going to be sufficiently reliable, you can probably coordinate orders and move after the Austrians. But if Italy is not, then you don't want to be attacking the Austrians. You want to get Austria to turn around first, and then maybe make your move after they get making some progress against Italy. So it really hinges on that in my mind.
And that's where David Hood is probably the better AR player than I am.
Oh yeah, you got that. He basically wrote the book.
Yep.
Whole lot of
Alright.
nothing. Whole lot of
Yeah.
bounces. I think I can only guess that many of these were arranged. Though the interesting one is Khan going out to the Aegean, which actually works because the Aegean, gets into Greece here. So that's kind of a fascinating position. And it also prevents Craig from supporting himself into Ankara in the fall, which is maybe not what he wants, where he wants to end up. The drop into the Baltic is certainly. I mean, the first approximation of this is maybe that the Silesia bounce was arranged, but you have that with a drop into Baltic and the fleet Norwegian going back down into Norway to cover Sweden. That really suggests that Craig is moving against McCarless here. He doesn't have the units to do it is the problem. His units are in the wrong place to do it. He needs another build to get another army there. And where's that build coming from? But maybe Austria gives him Ankara in the fall. I mean, we'll
It's
see.
coming from Liverpool because Zach just
Zach's
supported him.
putting him in Liverpool. Okay, so Zach's putting him in Liverpool to give him the build. If Zach doesn't take it himself in the fall,
Which he could, but I mean, we've got Michaelis is going to be down a build.
Yeah.
I think that this was arranged. I do think the move to Munich may have been arranged, but this to me reads that Craig is taking a page from David Hood, staying nice to his good Austrian ally, and is moving against Germany.
And I actually think, again, based on the passivity of the Italian player, this is what I was saying last turn. If he doesn't have full confidence that Italy is going to write really aggressive orders that they agree upon and completely coordinate, you can't make this happen. You just can't. Well, sometimes you get right. I'm not a huge fan of the conga line that McCarless orders here. So I don't know why you need to cover Denmark in this situation and why you leave Berlin. If you want to do a conga line, go Kiel to Berlin, Holland to Kiel, and just cover Sweden. I guess he's trying to cover Denmark from Baltic. It's a coin flip, but it's not the most likely move for Baltic. More likely to take a pot shot at Berlin or Kiel here. Indeed, Austria and Russia do just bounce in Ankara again, which I wonder if this is agreed upon to keep the Turkish fleet alive, because the Turkish fleet is indeed helping them, supporting the Greek unit out into the Ionian Sea. So I think that's probably what's happening there. They actually support the Austrians support McCarless to Venice, which I love, but it is such an anti-Russian play that Craig must be fuming right now. I mean, he must be just beside himself that his ally in Austria would do that. That is just insane. I love it. I think it's a great play, and I really like what Rano is doing. But man, that's going to be, he's going to have some splaining to do. Let's put it that way.
Right, winner of 04. We've got Warsaw and St. Pete double army build from Russia. Disband in Albania makes sense. Disband in Eddy also makes sense. Fleet North Sea is where you want to be. Just press right along. Actually, before we do that, who do you like in this game?
Oh boy, it's tough.
It is.
It's got to be Austria or Russia. I'm trying to decide which one. I'm going to go with Craig in Russia here, but it's pretty close, and I definitely could see Austria getting the better of this game. I think he's just got a little bit more in terms of places to go than Austria does. Unless they fight, and if they fight, Austria may have a small advantage, but I just don't see Austria making the gains out of Italy. He's lacking the fleets, right? So what are you going to get there other than getting Venice eventually?
Yeah, Austria's unit position and mix are just not is well, Russia's just in a better place.
And let's not forget that Craig has a 3-center advantage right now, right? And nobody is really fighting him. He's fighting McCarless, but his enemy is McCarless, and he has the advantage in that fight, right? I mean, he's not necessarily going to make fast gains, but he's got the position. And Zach, as long as Zach is working with him, he's in good shape.
Do you know why I think I like Craig's position better? Because of that second fleet in the south.
Hey,
I was complaining about earlier.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you in this one.
All right, Spring of 05.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. So McCarless opts to actually destroy the Berlin fleet, I suppose. Yeah, so Craig, instead of supporting Berlin, he moves it out to Baltic to bounce Denmark, which is reasonable decision there. But the consequence of that is that it gets destroyed. I suppose he could have taken Silesia from Prussia to leave open a retreat, but he opts to do it the other way. So he's in Prussia and Silesia, lost the fleet. Otherwise, in the south and really throughout Austria, it's just pretty defensive moves. It's exciting to see that the Austrian, who was so kind to support the Germans into Venice, Germany repays him by supporting the French into Tyrolia. That's just beautiful. Zach advances to Liverpool while Liverpool goes up to Edinburgh. It's interesting because now Zach is working with the Germans, which is quite fascinating.
I'm starting to wonder if maybe this was an unwanted support or something, or
which
could have been like a double cross. But the support into Liverpool, they get
Sorry,
the thought
you're a support, but for in the
Zach. Yeah, so Zach supporting Craig into Liverpool. If that was either unwanted or just a setup.
Well, I don't know why it would have been unwanted. I mean, maybe it was unexpected, but
yeah. Because my theory is Zach was not expecting Marcus to support Liverpool here. And then if we go with that approach, then we've got Germany and France staying on side the whole time. So that's all I'm saying.
It's certainly possible. Yeah, it is certainly possible, and that is a interesting narrative, and we don't have the benefit of knowing what the conversations are, unfortunately. But this is just really fascinating, and you're right. It does play with the narrative of Germany and France being on side, and now you see the French units going south, which is what you do right here if you're working with the Germans. Meanwhile, Craig is now down a couple, which is not optimal in terms of everything, but he does get Ankara finally. The Austrians do let him take it, which I think is an important move right here, because otherwise he's going to be pulling too much. This is the challenge with Russia, right? When you're at a lot of centers and you're split onto two fronts, you don't necessarily always have the right units or the right position to be able to hold on both of them.
Well, the secret unexpected tiebreaker in the balance of power is England. So we've got Marcus sitting out in Denmark. That might be the difference in whether or not Craig's able to hold on to Scandinavia.
And Craig is working with Marcus here, right? I mean, he's just supported him into Denmark, right? So though if you're Marcus, you're there for the highest bidder, but I suppose it's going to be Craig in this position, right? Because McCarless ultimately Denmark is a natural German center, but might not be a natural Russian one.
All right.
Meanwhile, Austria is slowly making gains, and like I was saying before, they weren't my pick, but I do like what they're doing here. I think they're in Tunis, which I don't know what that does for you long run. Probably becomes French, but hey. Oh,
interesting. So you correctly predicted that Craig would win, just probably not in the way you thought it would happen.
Cool. I mean, these are games that are ending early with still plenty of play, but again, no qualms about that. I think if you're Craig, certainly you take the board top
Mhm.
here. There is no way as Russia that I'm voting down a 9 center board top from this position. I think if you're playing some of the other countries, you might be looking at this and saying, hey, it could get better, it could get worse. I'm okay, and ready to move on to the next thing. So very,
Yeah, I
very,
mean,
very cool.
Zach's score probably it won't ultimately matter because he's ineligible to win the league. So that would be a lot. He's got growth. France has growth, but it would take a lot of time to get there. So I can understand France saying that. Austria is really the only one that I could. Well, Germany could probably grow a little bit from this position, but there's also a lot of risk as well. So yeah, I don't hate it.
No, I mean, yeah, I think it does make some sense, and yeah, I mean, what a cool game. And again, I think Rauno, who's a new player to me, I guess not a new player. I've been impressed with them in both of these games. They've been very exciting to watch. Great work by Craig and by Zach in this game, and yeah.
Yeah, and well done to Roni and to Cody for hanging on and fighting out for that survival. Love
Totally,
to see that.
totally.
I have a philosophy that if you aren't going to top, then I am one that fights to survive. There are others who fight to punish, which can be very fun, but and sometimes there is a justice in that. But most of the time, I respect the fight for survival, and there was definitely some fight there. So enjoyed seeing that. Well, it is now time for our next game in this round. Let's go ahead and transition over to VDL game 114, Rosemary's Baby. In Austria, we've got Christian Brown, who coming into this game was in seventh place, and or into tonight was in seventh place, as we saw a few moments ago, is dropped down to ninth. Wes Ketchum, we see return. Ian Regnick looks like a new player, so welcome, Ian. Glad you joined us. As we said earlier, if you will either put in the comments, send us a message, or message us on Discord, let us know where you're at. We'll update your location. Germany, we've got
Ian,
Debian.
Ian, I'm glad you got France on this board.
Yeah, that's a good power to start to introduce to the league. Germany, we've got Hal Schild, Debian's own. Hal, I'm excited, is going to be at WDC at Carnage, and is going to help with. He does excellent video work for us. So anytime he's on site, our video quality is way better. So happy for that. Italy, we've got the number one player in the DBNI, Ed Sullivan from Houston, Texas. Also just successfully spoke or what do you
Argue.
call it? Argued.
Argue.
Thank you. Yeah, at the Supreme Court. So very impressive. Putting those diplomacy skills to work. Russia, we've got Jason Bennett. Jason's been one of the biggest stories in the league this season. Came in really, really strong at the start of the season, and unlike many players who are new and start strong and kind of peter out, has managed to stay in the top placing within the league. So just watch Jason. He's right on the bubble. I'm going to be curious to see whether we see him at the end of the season. And Turkey, we've got the Diplomacy Briefing's own Russ Dennis from Detroit. Russ, it's been a while. Glad to see you back on a diplomacy board. Adam, anything you're going to be watching for this lot of players?
It will be interesting to see the dynamic in the West. Wes and Hal are both very experienced players. I see Hal isn't ranked, so maybe he hasn't played a ton of virtual games, but he's very experienced. Wes is very experienced. So it's always interesting when there's a new player there to see whether the dynamic is let's gang up on the newbie, or whether it's let's try to get the newer player working with us. against the other, and I suspect the latter may be the more likely dynamic, knowing those two. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Ed Sullivan in Italy. That's an interesting place for Ed. I don't know that I recall seeing him play Italy very much, but he's dangerous anywhere on the board. He has a very strong diplomatic style, and he knows tactics and strategy very, very well. So I could see it fitting with his style very well. We'll see how that goes.
And we've got some updates from chat that I'll go ahead and put on screen now. So Ian is from Boston. Ian, welcome. Thank you for playing and thank you for watching. And some bad news. Jason Bennett is pointing out that it looks like Hal's not going to make it to Carnage. So that's unfortunate. But Jason, good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's take a look at those games. Go ahead and switch around. I'll take play-by-play again for this one, Adam. And Spring 1901, Rosemary's Baby. Here we go. So taking a sec to look at our opening. We've got, again, a pretty standard set of openings. And this one actually is standard. Looking through here, I believe we have the single most common openings for every single power.
No, I think France. I think David Hood would be really proud of this opening. The only thing it's missing is the English Channel, yeah. But to be a straight out Hood hog. But the move to Picardy and Burgundy, you don't actually see that much.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. My take is that Iberia is there. There's nobody else that can get to it in the early game. Even if you don't intend on taking Belgium, it gives you a lot of diplomatic leverage. I like this.
I love it, especially, Ian is a player who probably Wes and Hal are neither familiar with. This is making a statement that, hey, I'm doing something in this game. I'm not playing passively. And I think it's a great opening in that situation. And hopefully the negotiations have played out well to set up for this type of move.
And the player who is happy that France is not in the channel is Wes Ketchum. So back in England again, we'll see if his game is.
Oh, that's right. He was in England in the last game, and it did not go that well, right? So.
Yep. All right, fall of 1901. Oh, we've got a convoy into Holland. From Wes Ketchum. That is a very strong anti-German statement. Burgundy from Ian moving into Munich. This is aggressive anti-German play from the EF. Definitely love to see that. And in the East, we've got Ed Sullivan moving to Trieste. I'm going to assume that this was arranged. I think that's what that signaling is saying. But if that was arranged, why
no,
Brian.
No, Brian. No. Look at the rest of the. Oh, he didn't convoy. I'm sorry. He moved to Greece without convoying it.
Yeah.
You're right. It may be arranged. I saw the move of Apulia to Greece and was thinking that Ed convoyed there, but I see Ionian making a joke move, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do not know what to make of that set of moves. Maybe it will confuse the rest of the board as well.
I think he's just making joke moves, but why would you not take Tunis or go to the Aegean here? Like Ed's got something in mind, right? Because he made an order for Ionian. It's not just unordered or misordered, right? So he's got something in mind here. So clearly Trieste was arranged, and he's slow playing for some reason. But this is an Ed thing. He plays in a meta that's beyond the rest of us.
Maybe. We do have Jason saying, I think it was a convoy. It's showing correctly, so that's a possibility. It could be a bug, but
okay. Well, if it was indeed a convoy, that's pretty anti-Austrian.
Yeah, or maybe it was just a misorder. So
though honestly, from that position, if you're going to convoy, sometimes the best thing to do is Italy is to convoy to Albania, right? And let them take. If you don't have support of the Turks to keep them out, convoy to Albania, and wow.
Yeah. So Jason just said, okay, it's a bug. So Jason, I don't know if you know this. This was my read on it, Kat. Completely. But if it was a bug, Jason, do you know if it was, are the positions out of order? Did Greece not?
Well, it shouldn't, unless
get in?
Bulgaria supported it, and this would be the end. This would be the results. So,
Yeah.
which it didn't look like Bulgaria supported it. So I think we're probably okay.
Got it.
Probably good. We're probably good position wise.
Okay. I will take a note to check with Brandon, and we'll dig into it. And
Yep.
Cool. Thank you for confirming, Jason. He said that the positions are correct. Cool. Winter of 1901, we've got the French building fleet, Marseille, Army Paris. Looks like we're continuing with the EF with that set of builds. Jason doing a double army build. I do like that set of orders. Yeah, nothing really surprising. Anything standing out to you with this set of builds?
These all make a lot of sense to me. I think the interesting thing will be to see what happens with Austria, Italy, Turkey at this page. I would say Jason is in the driver's seat based on what just happened, and probably is in the strong diplomatic position to try to steer things into a way that's going to be favorable to him.
We'll find out if Jason can take advantage. Yeah, he's not moving in Norway. That's a diplomatic signal. He could have done that other ways if there was any other reason to do that. I like that set of moves from Russia. Just continuing on, the surprise to me is the move from Ed of Trieste into Tyrolia, and combined with Ionian to Aegean and Greece to Ionian. That is a wild, wild set of moves. But when you consider the follow-on with Apulia to Rome and Naples to Tyrrhenian Sea, I think we might be looking at some kind of AI that's trying to get a jump on the West. I don't know. Adam, I'll ask you about that when I finish out reading the orders. The other really fun move is Ian, Marseille to Spain and Portugal to mid-Atlantic. Adam, I'll go ahead and ask you to speak to this one now. Is that anti-English?
I doubt it. It doesn't look anti-English to me. It looks like France is taking Spain. So, I mean, obviously that could change very, very quickly. But I don't think so. One thing I'll point out just for viewers is, France's moves are kind of interesting here with holding Burgundy and using Paris to support it. Certainly, nothing wrong with these orders. An alternative here would have been to move Burgundy to Rouen and so use Belgium to support Paris to Burgundy. Belgium is not going to be cut in that circumstance, right? Except by Rouen, in which case they wouldn't be able to force Burgundy. So it's a safe way to beleaguer Burgundy and perhaps get advance the unit a little bit. But they don't do that. They go up to Holland, which bounces. They go to Helgoland, which bounces. I would love to give some explanation to what AI are doing, Brian, but I honestly just have no idea. Rome is such a strange place to actively move an army as Italy because it just does not have an adjacency to anything useful. The only thing I can think of is it going to convoy to Tunis from Rome? I'm honestly completely befuddled by this set of orders. Why do you put Ionian and Aegean and Greece and Ionian rather than the other way? I mean, it's just I don't even know what to say, right? I mean, it's just a very strange set of orders. If it's coordinated, there must be some madness to their method. If it's not coordinated, then both of them are probably tearing their hair out right now.
So at Weaselmoot, when the event was over, Ed took Christian Brown aside. He said, "Christian, I need you to practice saying, 'What can we do together?'" Reason he said that is because at the very early on in the season, Christian was coordinating pretty well with other players and was seeing a lot of success. Top three, I think at one point in the season was the number one player in the league. We've seen kind of a return to form from Christian recently, where it tends to be more about what is good for Christian, which that style has worked for him. I mean, he's sitting in eighth. It's very possible, or seventh place coming into the day. Very possible that could work out. But I want to hope. My fingers are crossed that this was Ed going to Christian and saying, "What can we do?"
I just don't know. You know, I played with Christian. I had the pleasure of meeting him in person at Weasel Moon, playing a game with him. I found him to be. We worked together for a few turns, and then didn't. But you know, I found him to be a very good ally. He's got a unique style to him, but he's really tactically very strong, and you know, was a lot of fun and an enjoyable guy to play with.
Well, we'll find out whether they're working together here.
Oh my goodness! Who is
I just wanted to come on and disagree with Adam.
Hello, Mr. Hood.
Hey guys,
David.
I understood you were a person down, so I am jumping in to help if you want me to.
Wonderful, absolutely love having you.
Good to see you, David.
Hey.
So first, I will say we saw a very good AR that made us think of you in the last game. But I'm glad you're here because we are desperately trying to make sense of what we're seeing from Italy and Austria here.
I think you should just don't give him any context. Just show him the last set of moves and ask him to explain it to us, because you know, you and I have only played, you know, several hundred games between us, so we just have no explanation.
Yes.
Okay, I had a thought, and then it left me after I finished looking at all the rest of the moves. Have you gone to the fall turn yet?
Nope. So.
Yeah. Isn't this about Ed and Christian's past relationships? Probably. Not that controls anything, but it might influence it.
So I am desperately hoping that this is some kind of really weird let's work together, and we'll find out. I fear that is not the case.
That would seem, the evidence does not point in that direction, but let's find out.
All right. Okay, so
actually the evidence does point in that direction.
Interesting.
Although if you were going to do all this, why not just go to the Aegean in the
and Eastern Med to start with,
and the Italians go to the Eastern in the spring to whatever. I mean, maybe they're just trying to be creative.
It's entertaining for all of us. Thank you, Ed and Christian.
One of the more entertaining parts is Trieste trying to leave and getting bounced by the Romanians.
Yes. Okay, so David, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and have you take over for play-by-play, and Adam will do our analysis for this game.
Sounds good. Well, I guess there's more going on in this game than just the Christian Brown, Ed Sullivan relationship. I see England convoying to Belgium. So that's to backfill because the French are going to the Ruhr. And I haven't been following this game as much as you have, but I'm assuming that we're looking at a pile-on against the Germans.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
because Sweden is supporting Skagerrak into Denmark.
Yeah.
I wonder if St. Pete to Norway was part of the deal, though. I assume so.
You would imagine. I mean,
you know, a lot of times friendship between ER that's any kind of long-term friendship depends on the Russians owning Norway.
With an army. It's innocuous if you take it with an army, right? So I think it's okay.
Yep.
But we do have Holland supporting the convoy into Belgium. True.
Although that might just be unwanted support. I guess there's not really any substitute for finding out. It might be a little bit of a misdirection play. Hal trying to sow some dissatisfaction here.
I mean, if you're Hal in this position, aren't you offering England Belgium? I mean, aren't you saying, "Hey, why don't you take Belgium?" Right? I mean, I think.
Well, and Ian may be saying that to Wes as well. Take Belgium. I'm going to Ruhr. I mean,
you would imagine this is all arranged between EFR. Like this whole thing is just let's kill Hal, send him home. He can go watch some football, and have a barbecue.
Well, that English army build, I think, tells us that that's what England thinks anyway, is that he's still got friendship with France, because otherwise, of course, he's leaving Liverpool possibly open, depending on what he does otherwise. Otherwise, I don't think those builds are remotely surprising. Do you, Adam? I mean, why would you wouldn't want to build in St. Peter for trying to make friendship with England?
If it's an EFR, you're building in Moscow. That's how it works. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I immediately looked to the east to see what these clowns have for us next from the clown car, and I guess I see continued AI friendship, because that's what it was all along, or something, maybe.
I just wonder what you accomplish here, right? I mean,
Well, you get into Serbia, that's an accomplishment of sorts.
I guess it's a win, right?
The Russians ordering 2 units to Budapest. Usually what that means is you're trying to cut support from whichever direction Budapest is supporting. But other than that, I guess it probably doesn't matter too much.
I guess if they're supporting the Turks into Romania, you succeed in doing it. You succeed, right?
Yeah. Well, let's look over in the anti-German theater, i.e. the West, to see that indeed England continues on into Ruhr, and otherwise attempts to continue its offensive, although it's mostly red arrows there, but attempts to continue the offensive. And France continues to sit in the mid-Atlantic and Spain.
Because that's what you do as France in this position, don't you? Because that way, when the England convoys off, you go to
there you go. Unless it's time to actually change things in the fall. Although fall may not be the best time to go,
especially when you're supporting the convoy to give them a build. It's all bizarre, isn't it?
That is bizarre.
I mean, you want to get the army off the England so that you can get a free shot into Liverpool, but conversely, if you support them into Holland, you're just letting them rebuild another army at home. So
unless somehow he thought that wasn't going to work or something, I don't know.
And Norwegian goes to now anyway.
Well, England was apparently expecting things to change, and as we all know, things had to change eventually, because there wouldn't be enough of Germany left to keep fighting about, so something was going to happen.
Oh, you know what, David? I guess that England doesn't get a build because France is taking Belgium, so there's no build. So you're getting the army off the you're getting the army.
Yeah, exactly.
That's clever.
That is totally right. I don't know why we missed that the first time, but that is totally
I missed that as well. So France is getting 2 builds.
Actually, this is exactly when you'd go to Irish Sea. Well done, Ian, and
this is
to me and Adam for missing that.
Absolutely, no. This is perfect play by Ian right here, who we all noted was the new player on this board and is playing just marvelously.
Welcome to the VDL, really Ian.
That's a nice move.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely the right play. And had West not sniffed something and gone to NAO, it would be even better. But it's still a great play.
Now, speaking of great plays, we'll see if Ed Sullivan correctly decided this was the time to get rid of his friendship with Christian, which he does. Takes Greece and Trieste.
It's hard to argue with it. He wasn't making progress. They're not going to make any progress anytime against the RT. So, you got to change the dynamic. I can't fault Ed for this. I mean, I could. I probably should, but I won't.
And Ed cutting a deal with I don't know if they still are co-hosts, but one-time co-host of the Diplomats, Russ Dennis. So they've got a lot of history together. Russ kind of helped Ed grow up in this game and turn into the person that we love / hate today. And it's going to be interesting to see the two of them work together here, how long that's going to last.
That all having been said, and I don't disagree with any of it, it is a calculated risk that Ed is making, and it can only pay off if the RT starts fighting.
Yep.
And neither of them are in a great position to hit the other.
Yeah.
No, they both need somewhere to go, but on the other hand, there's more Austrian dots, and then there's Italian dots, which were formerly Austrian. So it's a tough show to crack, and Ed ought to be feeling pretty good about his relationship with one of them if he's going to do that.
Of course, the fact that France is just catapulting themselves here into such a position might affect how things happen in the East now, because there's going to be some theory that you don't want Ed to fall apart if you're Russia or Turkey, because then it might not be a counterbalance. I don't know. There's a timing question here too. Maybe you could take out Ed if you're RT and still have time to deal with France. We'll see.
The challenge here for France, I guess, is that now the English and the Germans probably work together, so holding some stuff in the middle may be a little bit harder.
Yeah, Munich is probably not holdable here, unless somehow Germany is enticed into taking Holland or something instead. I mean, there is the whole diplomacy aspect of the game, so we'll see how that goes.
What?
And Russia, and what does Russia do here is the other option, the other question. All right, so the Germans look like, I mean, they're supporting the French to Ruhr.
Wow.
So there you go. Diplomacy is actually relevant here.
Okay, look at that. Well, it shows what Half thinks.
Yeah, you know, we all know you're down to two centers. You could go one way or the other. Some of it depends on self-interest. Some of it depends on who you want to get back at.
Absolutely.
Some of it depends on who pitches it the best to you. I mean, there's lots of issues here. Russia really staying out of the fray, at least for right now. We'll see what he does in the fall with an open Denmark. But for right now, he's not moving his units. In the East, surprisingly, we have Christian Brown taking Trieste back, not caring if somebody takes Budapest, not caring to put the Turks into Greece to kill the Italians. I mean, I don't know. Well, this may work for Ed still.
This is what you do if you're Austria there. I mean, Christian is doing exactly what you do, and yeah, good. The friendship with Russ was short lived.
Well, that's correct. Although Ed's got a silver tongue, so we'll see. I'm sure he's working on Jason and Russ, looking for a friend.
Yeah.
But in the fall turn, it's really nothing new here. They're just the anti-Ed faction just sort of solidifies their gains.
Mm-hmm.
Owning and holding is a love letter he's writing to Russ, saying, "Hey, Russ, I didn't even try to take Greece back. We're friends, man." Actually, yeah, he was ordered to Serbia hoping to get Turkish support. Looks like Albania was.
He did get Turkish support. That's why
I can't tell from looking at the thing. Oh, you're right. He does get Turkish support. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the Russians supported Serbia, so no go. Let's look at the West for a minute, because the Ruhr unit actually does go to Holland with support. It's actually well guessed there by Ian. And unfortunately for Hal, he leaves Kiel to take Denmark and loses Kiel to England. So that was unfortunate. He's still going up one, right? 1, 2, 3. So he's still going up one because he takes Munich. But Sweden to Baltic tells us something also. That Russia, for example, didn't jump onto Den, instead going to Baltic.
This position's getting better and better for Ian. He's looking to ultimately capitalize from most of England here. It's a great position for him to be in.
Doesn't build here, but at least England loses one.
If you're Russia here, do you need to build something else in the north? Maybe Warsaw to send in a unit to Prussia Silesia, I guess.
I think if you're going to Baltic, you need to follow up on it.
Yeah, so you got to go to war. You got to build Army Warsaw here.
I believe so. Yes, because the Bohemia has been an army that he's used against in the Balkans, but that could easily pivot to doing something in Germany.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Adam, you are Team France for your pick to win?
I think so. I mean, I like the Russian position as well, but I think France is, if France has still got Germany like even sort of on side. I mean, Germany did take Munich, but that's sort of taking your home dot back. He's got Germany sort of on side at this point, which frankly, it's probably Germany's interest to kind of retake Kiel or defend Berlin at this point. Like it's pretty good position for France. You're going to ultimately get most, if not all, of England.
That's certainly true. The only counterweight that could happen here is either RT completely steamrolling the rest of AI and going and getting into the Western Mediterranean region quickly, or some kind of deal being struck where Ed immediately goes west and tries to deal with France. So in those situations, I think Jason would have a shot. But Jason, having gone to the Baltic Sea, that's really, now we'll see what he does when he gets there and what he's going to do now with the build and all that. But if Jason is just going to do things that help Ian, that doesn't really help Jason. So we'll see.
He's got a gap in the north now, actually, right? If he builds Warsaw, then he's kind of leaving Sweden unless he's going to pull back from Baltic. So unless he puts something up in St. Petersburg to help him cover Sweden, he's sort of got limited options up there.
I think he's probably going Norway to Sweden. I mean, he's throwing in with England. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
he's actually got some options here diplomatically.
Yeah, my pick, just so that we've got an alternate, I'm going to create a story where the East decides they want Ed to stay alive and go put some pressure on France and advantage Jason just slightly, because we'll see Italian pressure. We'll see.
Well, I'm going to throw one other name out that hasn't been mentioned, which is Russ Dennis. Right? I mean, let's not ignore the fact that games like this often open up for Turkey in the long run. If you're going to play, the last few games have ended 1905, 1906, but if you're going to play a 1910 game, Turkey could definitely top this board.
Only if he can get the jump on Russia, I think. I mean, in other words, he sends Ed west and tries to somehow in the fall turn take some stuff from Russia. I mean, it's not completely impossible if you can get Christian to help him, for example.
Yep.
I do not think Ed is going west based off of this disband. So,
Agreed.
We also have a Northern Fleet build from Jason Bennett. So none of us are really fully aware of the diplomacy going on this board.
I'm not surprised by the Northern build for Jason. I mean, it's, he does have that gap in Sweden, and it does give him a little bit of flexibility to go after either trying to get something off of England or even just using it against the Germans.
I think the fleet might ultimately be to help England not be destroyed by France.
Yeah.
So maybe Baltic was not really anti-German, or they've decided to pull back from it. We'll see. And at any rate, he uses Bohemia to go actually take out Vienna. Wow. That is what you call a dismemberment of the remainder of Austria. So the only thing that's left is an army retreating to Tyrolia, which is not a terrible place to retreat, but it's also probably not a productive place to retreat. France making progress in England, and Russia, as you predicted, Adam, switching around there. I mean, you would go to Norway almost in any event after having built that fleet. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't necessarily tell us what he's doing next, but certainly gives him some play up there. But anyway, in terms of fast resolution of the East to try to do something about the fact that Ian was otherwise possibly in better position, they've certainly done that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question is, can Russ advance fleets fast enough? He's going to get probably 2 builds this year, assuming he takes Tunis now. Yep.
Well, he's helping Ed take Budapest, basically, cutting Romania's support. So this was Russ making a move here, although he also takes Tunis.
It's balancing, right? You're giving you're not having Ed disband, and you're pushing Ed forward a little bit. You're balancing against the Russians in the long run, right? By having Ed be the weaker party.
I totally agree. And Russ needed somewhere to go if he doesn't want, if he wants to keep working with Ed, he needed somewhere to go. I mean, I don't think Jason can see this as anything other than a stab by Russ, though.
It's hard, right? I mean, he cut Romania, right, and to make sure that Ed got through there. And I think this is exactly what you need to do if you're Russ, if you want to try to have a shot at outpacing France in this game, which I think is going to be really hard. But
maybe a little easier considering you've got Russia, Germany, and England all coordinating against France here. That looks like in the fall turn. So you've got Burgundy. mean, obviously France has made progress by taking Liverpool, but they're also losing Holland. Now they'll be able to, I guess, rebuild, which they're going to need to do because there's a German in Burgundy. But you've got Russians supporting Denmark and Kiel supporting Denmark. So I think that's three-way coordination. That's just probably good balance of power play.
Hold on, Kiel is supporting. No, Kiel is supporting. Yeah, Kiel supporting
The German, I think, in Denmark.
No, I think it's supporting England back into Holland.
England into
Oh, it's the
Holland.
other way around.
England-
Kiel supported.
Really
I'm
are
sorry, Denmark supported Kiel. I'm sorry, I read that backwards.
They are really pushing back on the French. So this is great news for Russ. Actually, this is about as good as it could get.
I agree. I mean, it's coordination. I just had the supports backwards, but it's still coordination by everybody there against Ian.
I told you that Ed and Russ were working together.
Yes, Brian. It's all about proving that you are right.
So I just want to point out this is probably the best balance of power board that I've seen in VDL in a couple months at least, arguably even this season. This is a delight to watch so far.
This is going to be glorious for Russ when he puts 2 fleets down right now.
And he's going to Western Med, probably.
Oh, not to, oh right, Army Smyrna, sure.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he has to go to Armenia.
Yeah.
Yep.
But still, Tunis to Western Med. French are going to have to back off probably from their invasion of England.
That is nuts. And now Ed can go to Piedmont. Wow, that's exciting.
A late breaking Kraken has been released. Doesn't do it though. Look at there. It's surprising they're leaving Ian alone here. I know that the theory is behind it is that hurts Jason. That continuing to have a stronger Ian somehow hurts Jason, but that seems pretty attenuated to me. I'd go ahead and go to Western Med there
and look what happens. Jason actually takes Denmark here, drops down to Skag. I mean, this is
takes Budapest.
Yeah, fascinating. It's a great turn for Jason, I think.
Well, it takes Budapest but loses Romania. It's not like his position is great if he's fighting Italy and Turkey. He can make some short-term gains, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm still a little surprised that Tunis did not go to Western Med there and put some pressure on.
And Ian pulls back to Mao, which I guess makes sense because you're expecting to have something in Western Med.
Yeah. As we always say, we don't know what the negotiations were. But here's the move west that I was expecting the spring turn. They do it in the fall turn, Lyon and Western Med.
And here comes Ian coming back, and it looks like they're letting him do that because he convoys back to Belgium. Hal pulls out of Burgundy, so it looks like they're going to set up to let him get away with it.
It's another balance of power play now that Hal is worried about Jason, which he should be since he just lost Denmark. The French get into Piedmont instead of the Italians getting into Piedmont.
Oh, far out.
But Jason's position in the Balkans, as you can see, is not spectacular.
No, it's good news. This is good. So Russ took Budapest and lost Romania. Is that right? So
they never had Romania. So it's
never had it, but he's basically taking Budapest off of it. So
it's still a +1. Basically taking it off of Ed, but Ed's getting Vienna. So
yeah, and then we'll be able to build an army in.
He'll rebuild.
Yep.
He can rebuild at home. Yeah. And he gets the fleet into Trieste, which is always a great position for Italy.
All right, now wait a minute, Jason. You moved Denmark to Kiel to support a Baltic instead of the other way around. Because otherwise, you could have taken 2 centers from Germany. Right?
Come on.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you would do that. There must be a reason that I'm not immediately seeing, because otherwise that's really not a good move. I mean, he would have been +3 instead of +2.
Which
I know that's because of any killed units, but still.
Which would have really helped because you want to build in Moscow, Sev, and St. Pete, but now you can only build in Moscow and Sev.
You know, Brian is right. Let me just say that again because it helps Brian's ego.
It does. It doesn't happen very often.
This is nice balance of power play here. Going back and forth, trying to keep, people not too far ahead of you so that you can make a break towards the end of the game. It's balance of power play.
Is it balance of power, or is it Russ coming out of the corner gonna dominate this board?
I understand what you're saying, but from Ed's point of view, he didn't really have a whole lot of choice here. I mean, he had to work with one of the two of them.
I'm not arguing it's a better result from Ed than the alternative, but on the other hand,
how do you balance Turkey's power here?
Yeah, I think that's my point.
Yeah,
it's not a bad point.
Yeah, your pick of Russ is looking better and better every turn, Adam.
Well, you build 2 units here as the Russians. It slows things down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the question is if Germany's building. Oh, they couldn't build because they couldn't have. Yeah, they can't build.
Way to build.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay.
Happens to me every time I play.
All right, 1907. Let's see if we got some more switcheroos here in the West, because now England convoys to Belgium of all things. They had this. They were moving away, trying to keep the Russians down.
Denmark.
Yeah. What did I say? I meant Denmark. Yes.
Yeah.
Convoys to Denmark, and the Germans take Kiel. Okay. Wow. That's some switcheroo. But what it really means is that Ian has now been freed to basically completely deal with the coming people from the Mediterranean. I know it loses Spain, but he should be able to take that back because he'll be Portugal, Mid-Atlantic, and Marseille. So he should be able to take that back.
Do you think, interesting, do you think Belgium to Ruhr, you think they were worried about units going to like Bohemia, Silesia? Because why go to Ruhr rather than Burgundy here?
I think he was trying to cut off the Russian retreat.
Yes. That makes sense. Okay. Got it.
So Jason just said he meant, what did he say? He meant to follow up from Denmark.
Yeah, he meant to cover.
Oh, he just missed, or he just didn't pay attention.
No, he got a last minute.
Oh, Norway, because he had to bounce Norway. I see. That makes sense, Jason. Yes, that does make sense.
It makes sense.
It does. All right, in the East, what have we got? Convoys to Romania. We got Russ getting bigger and his position getting better, and now he's in the Ionian, and the Italians are doing whatever they can to help.
By going to Venice and Tiroli, I guess it makes sense. And the Russians to Vienna.
Wow. Is this going to be the turn that Russ Dennis basically takes the game over completely?
Yes.
And then what does that mean? Will the other people respond to that in the West? We'll see.
Can the other people respond?
So are you saying you think that Russ takes Trieste and Naples right here?
I was really talking about they're taking Romania. I mean, we'll see in the fall turn what the position looks like. I'm interested to see what Ionian is going to do. I don't think he one-dots Italy or even takes Trieste here. I think he's too wrapped up. I think he can still make some progress against the Russians. I mean, fall turn, he hits Ukraine and takes Sev, right?
I don't think he gets Ukraine.
Well, I mean, he supports the attack on Sev. In other words, he's going to get both things. He's going
to get Romania and Sev here.
Yeah, he either hits Ukraine from Romania.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. He gets Sev here and he gets Romania. There's no reason to dot the Italians here. Go to Tyrrhenian Sea. You can dot them next year. I totally agree with you, David.
Yeah, I just like Russ's position.
Why the hell do you do that?
Oh my gosh.
Why would you do that?
Russ.
Why would you do that? I don't get it.
And if you're going to do that, go ahead and take frickin' Trieste.
Why would you do that?
Wait, what is he doing exactly? Because he didn't take Naples, but he's letting the Russians come back in the game?
What? The Russians aren't helping you in the north. Why are you doing that?
Maybe he thought he needed the Russians to counterbalance something other places. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
I thought he had Russia by the kahunas and should just go ahead and do something about it.
I'm totally with you.
Because this is a middle road where he doesn't attack either one of them.
Oh, my goodness.
Holding off of Russia and holding off of Italy. Listen, Russ is a good player.
I'm sure he sees something here. I have no.
That's not true. Laugh out loud. Russ, I'm not laughing. I'm puzzled. I know we're going to find out. We're going to find out in a minute. So don't say anything, Russ. But I'm just puzzled. I'm
Wow.
just puzzled by all this.
I mean, you're Turkey. You got to build. You're behind the line. You got to get your builds. You got. Wow.
It's 1907. If you're not going to pull put the hammer down on Russia when you had him, then put the hammer down on Ed Sullivan.
And let's look at just what happened. Look at France. How did that happen?
Oh, this is just beautiful play from a
We were
brand new player.
we were so focused on what happened in the East, we forgot to say London and Holland.
And Spain and holding Spain and must have and had one popped. That is just amazing, Ian. He had everybody against him two turns ago, and now he's +3 and topping the board again.
So maybe that's what Russ is up to, is that he's
Russia-
again trying to use Jason as a counterweight or something.
Is Jason a counterweight to France here, though?
I don't know. Could be, maybe. Ish. I don't know.
Yowzers.
It's an interesting question. I mean, Jason builds in a pro-Turkish way, with the Northern Fleet and all that. Come on, Russ. Show me something here.
Now he's attacking Romania for some reason and convoying back to Armenia.
Oh, my.
We're going back to the position we just moved ourselves out of, except we don't.
Well, except now you got the French coming into the Mediterranean.
I don't get it.
Well, by gosh, we'll see what happens. He also goes to Trieste, so probably had to cover it from the Vienna.
Oh, totally.
Well, wait a minute. So Italy supports Vienna to Bohemia. Okay, all right.
Maybe he supports Trieste to Vienna now if he's still. But no, he moved to Tyrrhenian Sea and Ionian. He's going to go take Naples now, right?
I think so. Although he's got to worry about losing Tunis.
He has to worry about losing Tunis.
That the decision that Russ made, I'm sure he had his reasons, but that has completely changed the complexion of the game.
Well, and now he's got Russia back in Romania, so he can't even do things because he's got Bulgaria open. It's not a good. It's it goes from being in the catbird seat to being in some other chair.
All right, fall 1908. What is in store for us?
I noticed that Russia's now lined up in nomad's land, Prussia, Silesia, Bohemia.
Well, now he's got Berlin and takes Denmark and takes the North Sea, and is not facing. Well, the Turks are trying to get back in position to deal with Russia. He didn't try to take Trieste on purpose. He was just covering it for Ed. And now he leaves and takes Galicia. So anyway, he's getting an interesting position here. He does not hit Ed at all. In fact, he bounces in Tunis instead, which is probably smart. So I like the fact that Russ is coming back, but man, did he lose some momentum here. Now, the French have lost London, but they took Edinburgh. Okay. But they're still down 1.
Your
Certainly.
ability to make progress against the Russians. Well, I mean, you still can make progress against the Russians, but it's getting a lot harder. They're going to put 2 more armies down.
Yeah.
So I think this game probably has 2, maybe 3 years left. It's been back and forth. We've got a couple powers I think could make realistic arguments for topping. David, who's your pick to win here?
Gosh. With basically 4 moves left, probably Russ still has a good shot if he just eats Italian centers. And make some progress against the Russians if he can, and he can obviously do that. There's some guesses involved because of Budapest and can be attacked and so forth. So there's some guesses involved. Gosh, but I almost hate to say Russ, because I really think he took his best chance and threw it away, and is now trying to come back. What do the Russians? Can the Russians make further progress? Can the French figure out a way to take Tunis and maybe do something else, take the rest of England out? Gosh, this is going to be a photo finish, I think. I'm going to vote for Russ as a redemption story. This is a redemption arc. Russ is going to fail and then succeed. That's my prediction.
Adam.
I don't know. I can't put my money on Russ after what he did. So I'm gonna have to pick someone else. And honestly, I would love to pick Ian because I love how he's played this game. I think he's struggled with some adversity, and he's come back. But he's got a disband here. It's gonna be really hard for him to top this board. I'm gonna put my money on Jason.
Yeah,
That would be my second choice also because of Ian having to disband here and his position. He's not spectacular.
All right.
Oh, my. Okay.
That's Jason. Wow. First, I just want to say thank you. This was a really, really entertaining game. This was a group of players that I feel like had a very deep, solid understanding of how to play this game, how the butterfly effect was on full display in this game, and just really loved every second of this. So.
I may have mistakenly used the term newbie when I referred to Ian, and that is clearly not the case. He may be new to VDL, but Ian is a really strong player, is evident from this game. I really loved what France did in this game. I think I'm looking forward to seeing Ian in some more games. I think he's going to be a power to reckon with.
I'm going to say congratulations, Jason.
Yeah.
Russ is saying in the comments that he was fine with Jason winning because Jason is, a competitor in Virtual Diplomacy League and Russ is really not, which is just another underline of something I've said in the past that, people do things for different motivations. And as long as you're having fun and feeling like you are satisfied, then if you decide you don't want to take the lead in the game, that's actually up to you. And that's part of the game too, because it's a diplomatic game. And if your negotiations lead in that direction, whether Jason talked him into that or not, that's just part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I see Russ's comment here that he's getting trashed by David and I, but I do completely agree with David's point. There's actually, you can play this game for whatever motivations you want, and frankly, the other people on the board need to figure that out and react accordingly, right? And if your motivations are, something silly or like I don't really care about my outcome, I'm going to help this other guy win. The rest of the board needs to kind of figure that out and suss it out and figure out how to deal with that. And nothing wrong with that if that's what Russ decided to do here.
That is the beauty of this game. It is a human game. It's about human decisions. And if it were not that way, it would be far more boring. And I don't think we would all be here right now waiting to see what will happen with every move. Thanks again to the players. Congratulations, Jason, on the top. That does wrap up our coverage of the second round. Let's go ahead and take a look at our standings going into our final round. So through the games that we've seen so far, we've got looks like Nicola and Tim remaining in current place. Farron with the big push from the round one game, moving into third. Jason Bennett moved into fourth place, overtaking Jackson Roberts on the strength of that top. Congratulations, Jason, knocking down Jackson and Brandon. 2021 Diplomat of the Year, Jason Mastbaum, holding on to that important seventh place by just 1 point, a little bit over 1 point over Craig Mayer, knocking Christian Brown down into ninth. It is only October. We've got November and December to play, but we can see, we've said it every year, every season, every point does matter at the end of the season, and we're seeing that on full effect right now. Man, can't wait for the next one. What do you say we do another one of these?
My gosh, let's see.
All right. So next up, let's transition us over to the first game of round 3. All right, VDL game 115, Midsummer. We've got in Austria and Ian, welcome back. Adam, you said you wanted to see more, and your wish is his command. England, we've got Liam Stokes. France, Tim Crosby. Germany, Roni Mordanov. Italy, Christian Brown. Russia, Riaz Varane. And Turkey, the return of Cody Green. Another really good mix of players, different skill sets, and another international board. David, what are your thoughts looking at this set of players?
Well, I always love watching Riaz Varane play, so having him back in a VDL game is fun for me. He just, by the way, he was on the latest edition of Deadline we just released a few days ago. It's part of the panel discussion. I also love seeing Liam Stokes on the board, and it's been a little bit of time, I think, since I called a game with Liam, and it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. David, one of the highlights for me of tonight's broadcast, we've got 5 games, and we've got several players that we have not seen in several months returning to the board. It is October. We're moving into the home stretch of the season. Our players know it, and we're starting to see them return and compete. So with that, let's see our competition in game 115. Adam, I'm going to put you on play-by-play for this one and take us away.
Sure. We're seeing, again, I don't think we've seen a single opening to the English channel in today's VDL games, and that trend continues here. But we do see that support into Burgundy from France here. So interesting to see where that goes. Otherwise, we see pretty normal moves in the West, in the East. Very similarly, bounces in Galicia, bounces in the Black Sea, Venice to Trieste is probably the one notable order.
Yes, and with Christian as Italy, that may or may not mean what it normally means.
I'm not sure what it normally means, but, we'll see.
Well, it doesn't. It normally, when it's by itself without an army to Venice, it normally means pro-Austrian unless you do this.
Yeah, this is very exciting, and kudos to Christian for giving this a shot. He convoys into Greece while cutting Serbia, so and he has support from the Turks as well. So Italy actually successfully builds 2 in 1901, neither of those being Tunis. That's not very common, and that's pretty unusual. The other interesting thing is that Cody in Turkey elects to try to get their fleet out to Khan, which allows the Russians to move into the Black Sea, which is really a nice play by Riaz. Riaz is definitely a positional player, and this is the kind of thing that we see from him all the time, kind of just bearing down on players next to them. Let's see. In the West, everybody goes for Belgium. That's very exciting. France goes there. Germany goes there. England goes there. But the French do take Iberia, and Germany takes Holland and Denmark. They do make that move to the North Sea, which doesn't have really much effect.
Yeah, that's what I call the bouncy bounce in Belgium. But besides that, the move to the North Sea from Roni is interesting because what were you expecting that might do except tip the English off that you don't like them? Unless this is some kind of elaborate, thing that England knows about. I mean, did you not expect North Sea to be convoying fleet? I think you do expect that under almost any scenario here. It's either going to convoy to Norway or going to convoy to Belgium. So it's interesting that he decides to do that little tip-off Denmark to North Sea. It was very unlikely to actually go. So what were you trying to accomplish?
Sometimes you make an order like that for no particular reason other than, hey, I know Liam sometimes does funny stuff, so what the heck, I'm just going to order it. And then in negotiations, I'm going to say, oh, I knew it wasn't going to do anything anyway, so what's the difference?
Yeah.
Fascinating builds. So Liam actually builds the fleet in Edinburgh rather than London, which is very pro-French, obviously. But he does not get the same courtesy from Tim in France, who builds the fleet in Brest, the Army Paris, as is normal. Germany builds the normal fleet Kiel, Army Munich. Armies by Russia in St. Petersburg and Sev, which is quite fascinating. And then most unusual of all is the Turkish army in Smyrna. You don't see an Army Smyrna build in 1901 for Turkey very often, and we might find out why in a moment. It does create some challenges for the Turks, and I think we may see that.
Well, I assume what it means is, hey, you weren't supposed to go to the Black Sea. And I just supported the Italians in degrees. I can ally with them, not you, buddy.
Yeah, I imagine you're right, David.
Or not.
Or not.
Well, they didn't go to Armenia. Oh, come on. Congo,
Yeah.
Bulgaria, This is on purpose. He's letting the Russians into the warm waters of the Mediterranean.
You've got to assume that he's going to support the Russians out to AG, and this is probably an arrangement between the two of them. But if this is what you want to do, I'm kind of curious why you don't just build the fleet in Smyrna if you're going to work with the Russians anyway, so you can go out to Eastern Med.
Maybe he got talked out of what he was going to do. I mean, it is a talking game.
Yeah.
So maybe he had a theory, and then he got talked to. Wait a minute. You know what we can do instead, says Riaz Varani, the silver-tongued devil that he is.
Yeah.
We can still work together. I can be your other fleet in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And it'll get my fleet out of your hair.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Riaz, right? I mean, Riaz is a great diplomat in this game. He's a great talker. He will convince you that everything he's doing it for you, and he's gotten me on that many times in our games together. So I suspect that's what's going on here. I'm kind of wondering what Christian is thinking. Like what is the long game for Christian here, supporting forward the RT? That will be interesting to see. We didn't really comment much on the West, but it looks like the end result of everything was that the Russians took Norway, and the French are sort of positioning their fleets innocuously.
And there was continued EG sparring over Helgoland for example.
Yeah.
Took Norway, but will they be able to keep it?
I mean, he's got to worry about Sweden. So we'll see what that means.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't actually get to keep either one of them, does Riaz? Loses Sweden and does not keep Norway.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice by Riaz to defend that way, but it's maybe getting a little ahead of himself. So he's clearly working with Christian, supports Christian into Vienna. He actually, I guess the idea here is that the Turks are supposed to take, Greece. I don't know. He cuts Serbia. I don't really understand what the idea here is to be, but he ultimately kicks the Turks out of Bulgaria. It's a little bit puzzling what Riaz is doing here.
I think that Riaz is siding against Cody because that's why you put the fleet in East Coast Bulgaria, not South Coast Bulgaria.
That's my feeling too. It's just a sort of strange way to play it, I guess. But
I think there might have been a plan, then there was a different plan. Now there's this other plan. In other words, I think these plans have been changed because of diplomatic changes.
Yeah, with the fleet, with the Turkish fleet in the south coast of Bulgaria, it seems odd that you wouldn't just try to take Serbia with the help of the Italians in this position. But
well, he does put the Italians into Vienna, so we've got sort of a wintergreen here.
Yeah,
which in Riaz's case, I can understand that he does need Christian to go ahead and deal with Tim coming into the Mediterranean.
I'm fascinated by the German move Munich to Tyrolia, where he's got France sitting in Burgundy. That's really quite interesting. It almost looks like it's turning into a Western triple based on everything else that's happening on this board.
Kind of does, actually. Although you don't build a third fleet, if that's true. Says the Germans do not build a third fleet.
That is not the triple. That is not the Western triple build. The Western triple build is an army in Munich and an army in Berlin.
That's a German triple fleet.
I mean, on the other hand, it's hard to fault Roni for doing that, right? Because most Western triples are delayed EFs. So Roni is just saying, I don't think that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to let England sit up there with 3 fleets around Denmark and just tolerate that. So I can't. I think it's probably a savvy play on Roni's part.
Look at Riaz taking charge of the Black Sea here.
I'm super puzzled actually by a decision to build a second Southern fleet when you're getting hammered in the north, unless he really, I mean, I guess he's counting on England and Germany fighting, which he made the right call seeing the builds, but he doesn't know what those builds are going to be, and it would have been much safer to put an army down.
This is the kind of situation I get myself in trouble for a lot. I feel like I've got a really good read on what's going to happen on the rest of the board, and I'm willing to take a risk, a strategic risk. And sometimes it pays off, but just as often, if not more often, I lock myself in to a strategy that I think is going to happen. And then if it doesn't turn out, I don't have the flexibility to react. And that's my concern for Riaz.
I mean, I'm not going to say Riaz is probably reading the board better. I'm sure he's reading the board better than I am because he's subject to all of the diplomacy. But, you know, seeing this position, I'm building an army Moscow here because that gives me the most flexibility to use the unit wherever I need it. I guess the other thing I should say is, see you later, Ian. We barely knew you. This kind of thing happens when you play Austria sometimes. Man, this is a 1902 takedown. It was a pleasure to see you in the previous game. We barely saw you here. I hope we see you again because it was so much fun.
Yeah, this has all happened. This has happened to all of us at some point.
Some of us often. So yeah, Ian, thank you for playing. Really, really impressive first game that we saw. And look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for joining us both in the game and on the stream. I wanted to ask you, David, how do you feel about Christian's double fleet build here rather than building an army?
I think it is exactly the right move.
It's perfect. It's beautiful.
The reason that you think about building an army here is because of Tyrolia, and I understand that. But your success as the Italians is to get the jump on the French while you can. And so his thinking is that he can do that with this other build because you still have to deal with the remainder of the Turks as well. So you're trying to do both of those things and hope that between the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 armies that the Wintergreen Alliance has in the Balkans, that they can deal with a German in Tyrolia. That's the hope. I know there's an Italian a Turk in Serbia as well, but not for long.
I totally agree. I think it's it's absolutely, it's very aggressive and it's beautiful.
There's a lot going on in spring of 03. Let's see how this plays out.
Oof. Why do you? I guess the supported attack on Budapest. That must in some way be a group. No, he's supporting the Turks into Bulgaria as well.
He has sided with Turkey instead of Russia.
Wow.
Now that
I did not see that coming with the 2 fleet build. I mean, if you're going to do that, you need another army.
You got to have an army if you're going to do that, Christian, because you can't deal with the Germans. You don't have the power to deal with the Germans.
Oh boy.
My goodness.
Wow.
I mean, there's still some ways maybe around this. I don't know, but.
Oh, boy. Okay. In the West, I mean, Christian does send a bunch of fleets west. It's interesting that with the moves to Lyon and Western Med that he goes to Tuscany and Apulia rather than the Ionian Sea and Tunis. So I guess Apulia makes sense because he wants to get something back into Adriatic, but I'm not sure why you don't go to Turanian here so you have something to cover Tunis if France does something funnier. But I mean, I guess you can now move your fleet to Piedmont. I don't know.
I think that was what he was thinking, is that's his.
Yeah.
And Apulia is about defending Venice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But gosh. It's an interesting choice that was made. We'll see if it works out. And Riaz has taken Norway back because now, he's got a German buddy, maybe. So we'll see.
We'll see how long-lived that is. But
keep it.
Easy come, easy go.
He is able to keep it.
He does. Well, because now
the English take Denmark here.
Well, he supported Sweden. He's working with the English now. Riaz is just Just
Wheeler dealer.
a little bit of everything here. I mean, Christian is just like he's so out of position. Fleets in Piedmont and Venice is just not what you want when you're playing Italy. Those are not places that you want to have fleets. So he took Budapest and he lost it. I mean, the stab on Riaz really didn't get him a whole lot. So
It was a strategic realignment that probably shouldn't have happened. I think go ahead and take out Serbia in that spring turn. Even if the Germans leak into Venice, you figure out some way to deal with it going forward. But get rid of the Turks because you can use the Russian army to benefit you for the Italians. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, and look at this. Riaz goes to Sev. He's throwing a bone to the Turks right here. Right? He's telling Turks,
he had to.
hey, he's got to. And he's saying, look, all right, I can't work with the Italians. That's very clear. I'm throwing my lot in with you, and that's that. I don't know whether Turkey is making a misorder here, or whether they realize they're making a misorder or not. But I think we should just point out that the south coast of Bulgaria cannot attack Romania. Considering they tried to support it, suggests that this was just a mistake, that they maybe misunderstood where the unit was, or I think maybe Cody is a little bit less experienced and didn't realize the issue here.
Gosh,
Yeah,
Skagerrak goes to Denmark because Denmark left with support. Look at that.
Yeah, I've seen this happen for a lot of times. People switching between online adjudicators, especially something like WebDep, which doesn't allow you to make illegal orders,
Right.
and Backstabber does. So just like in face-to-face, you do have to be aware of the rules of the coasts. In Bulgaria, South Coast and East Coast is one of those weird exceptions. I have done this exact thing before. I get it. But the whole set of Turkish and Italian orders makes a lot more sense if you consider the fact that if they were expecting Romania to be cut.
Well, it's a big problem, right? Because the failure to cut Romania, which could have been very easily done by Serbia, would have protected Budapest. And I mean, it really just dramatically changes the outcome of this turn. It gives Riaz some new life that he, may have not had otherwise.
Yeah, Roney did not want all of that hullabaloo to happen and actually go down one here.
No.
You send that German expeditionary force into the Balkans, which weakens you in the north when you don't have the north figured out. You needed to have that figured out diplomatically, and he really didn't. And then he had the misguess about Denmark. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right, let's see what happens here. England is running away to Edinburgh. I don't know why you go to Edinburgh and not North Atlantic Ocean here. So that's interesting because you went to the English Channel.
Well, he's trying to cover Edinburgh in case Germany went there, maybe.
You're probably right. Mm-hmm. He was trying to do you're absolutely right. He did a supported attack on the North Sea. So you're absolutely right. He was doing it to cover the retreat.
Although the guy could have retreated to London. I guess they couldn't have held it, was the theory.
Yeah, it's a strange choice to go to. Yeah. Otherwise, it looks like Timothy is now fighting England. It looks like Christian is doing God knows what in Tuscany and Tyrrhenian Sea in North Africa. I don't have much of an explanation for that other than he loses Greece because the Russians are now working with the Turks, it would seem. I think the bounce in Armenia was arranged.
Yeah. Christian he threw away his RI alliance, and the only thing good for him here is that he has made a deal with France to disengage.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna play, or I don't know, Brian, when you want to play the who do you like game here, but I mean, this is like it's like Ring Around the Rosie or something. I mean, it's like people getting out of a clown car. I don't. Everything just keeps changing every turn. I don't even know what to say.
Well, let's look at the fall turn and then we'll do a pick.
Okay, that's good.
The times in my life that I have picked against Riaz Varani are a law.
It would be it would probably be a mistake to do that.
And Tim has pulled back out of his attack on England.
And he's getting support from the English into Belgium. Wow. I mean,
how the mighty
wow.
Bordvanov has fallen here. Well, he does take Denmark back, I guess.
Yeah, but the negotiations that led to Tim pulling out of the Irish and trusting that the English were going to support him to Belgium is fascinating to me. Whole lot of nothing in the east. I mean, I think the most notable thing is that the Turks are in Greece and the Ionian Sea, so this RT is rolling at this point.
Yeah, it might have been a good guess here for Serbia to have hit Trieste and Greece to hit Albania, under the theory that would help you maybe keep Serbia, because you didn't need the support into Ionian. You know, you could just go at Ionian.
You might if Tyrrhenian. Why is Tyrrhenian Sea going to Naples instead of the Ionian, though? It's going there so that Tuscany can get.
So Tuscany can get into the fray, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably right that going to Ionian with one makes sense. I'm not sure you want to be so bold as to go Serbia to Trieste here, though. I mean, I'm kind of understanding the conservative play. If you're Turkey, you want to assure yourself the build and not give yourself a risk of, Trieste supports Albania to Serbia.
Well, people do accuse me of being conservative, but not on the diplomacy board.
Oof. We'll talk about that later, David.
All right.
All right. Winner of 1904. Before we do this is our time to pick it to win it. David, I'm going to start with you.
Sorry, I'm just going to go back and say what I said earlier. Riaz Varani is currently in the lead. He's also got an ally in down south, and I think he's likely to keep that ally at least for a while. And he's got England and Germany still, I think, fighting each other. So I'm picking Riaz.
I know better than to pick against Riaz, but I'm going to actually go with Tim in this game. I think Tim. Things are about to open up with England having the disband. I think he's been playing tactically and strategically well all game. I think he's going to get it, but I think Riaz, man, it's hard to bet against him.
Yeah, my head says Riaz. My heart says Tim, though. Tim has been so good this season. We haven't seen Tim score as highly within the past couple of months, though. I think Tim's going to find a way to pull this out. We'll see.
And we should say that Cody is one center behind.
Yeah.
Christian is one center behind. But the fact that they are locking horns here, I think, is why we are not picking one of them. It's not impossible for one of them to pull this out, for sure. It's not impossible. But their chances are less, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, in contrast to the last game where I thought Turkey had a good chance to pull out, I don't think the position is as strong here. And if you look at where their armies are, it's going to be a lot harder for Turkey to actually make rapid progress versus having the 3 or 4 armies kind of already pushing towards the Balkans or into the Balkans.
I was going to say, you got to do something about Albania here, and he did.
Yeah. That's what you do.
Although the Italians were leaving anyway, they were repositioning.
Oof, the hold in Khan is just terrible.
Well, he goes to Armenia too, so there's definitely some second guessing here.
Mm.
He wasn't sure that Riaz wasn't coming back to the Black Sea, maybe, or something.
Why not just arrange a bounce in Armenia then and go out to Aegean, right? I mean that's just not good.
Now that will probably haunt Cody here because he doesn't even retreat defensively. He retreats offensively, which might be something I would be tempted to do here too, as a little bit of an aggressive guy, but only if I already had at least one fleet in the water.
Yeah.
So, Adam, you said you don't like that. Why? What is it about this that
The,
you
the,
don't?
hold, the hold in Constantinople, it's just
Yeah.
such a momentum killer, right? For Turkey. I mean, Turkey is so far from where the action is, where you're building to begin with. You know, you've got that fleet there. You've got to get it into play, right? You just lost the Ionian Sea, which is perfectly fine, right? You're in the Adriatic, that's fine. But now you just don't have the fleets sitting, behind you in the Aegean to actually make plays on forward. It gives Italy more flexibility in terms of what Italy can order right now with the Ionian Sea and with their other fleets, right? Ultimately, what you want to do in this game is make it so that you have options and your opponents don't have options. So you can predict what they're going to do and they can't predict what you're going to do. When you do something like leaving units way back from the action, it gives your opponents more flexibility than you have. And that's exactly what Turkey has done here. It's just a general principle of the game.
Now, we should have actually said something about this before now, but when it was clear that France pulled out of their attack on England, then where were they going to go next?
Yeah, I mean,
Back into the water in the Mediterranean.
yeah,
And that's where they're
absolutely.
going. And that could help Cody a lot, actually,
Absolutely.
depending on how Christian reacts to this. Tim, your pick of Tim is really starting to look good here, isn't it? I'm
Well,
not saying Riaz's position is bad, but look at this fall turn.
yeah, I mean, he lost Munich. I guess he's holding in Holland and he's getting some fleets down south, so he's got a build coming. But Riaz does manage to take and hold Vienna. So I'm not, I mean, it's still kind of slow growth on both of their parts, position wise. Tim has got some play in the south, but he's basically throwing his lot in with Liam now, right? And he's forgoing the opportunity to really make huge gains up in the north. So I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. It's a good turn for Liam as well, honestly, because Liam takes Denmark and now has a surefire ally in the French who have really completely committed to the south.
Well, committed to the south in a way that looks successful to me, though, is what I was
Totally.
saying.
Oh no, I totally agree with you, David. I mean, he's going to make some gains there.
Because the Italians just kept going east anyway.
Yep.
Now the Turks also made some progress, took Trieste. I mean, the RT did nicely here. They cleaned the Italians out. Part of that was the way the Italians played it tactically, but they just cleaned them out, and that is probably good for them. The rich get richer here, it looks like.
Oh, and I just want to say good on Cody, who didn't have the best outing last time we saw them playing. Much more success here, and really like to see it. David, question for you. I think I've got some interesting choices on builds here. What are your predictions?
You mean for any particular power?
For any of them? Yeah, I think every single one of these builds is interesting.
I completely agree with you.
Let's start with Tim in France. If you're going to go ahead and do all of this, then you should build an army Marseille to go to Piedmont, I think.
Agreed.
And he's committed now. And I know he's pulled out of this once and all that, but I think he's committed now, which then leads you to wonder, what is Liam going to do? The man that we used to call a chaos agent, but has complained about this, said, I'm not. I'm playing different ways. Stop calling me that. So if he's going to stick with his EF, which he might very well, this might be a good time to build an army and convoy it.
Armory Edinburgh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Army Eddie. That's it. Yep.
So now you have the Russians, though. You got Riaz. What does he do here? Almost certainly builds in St. Petersburg. The question is, what do you build? There's an argument for building all three possibilities. There's an argument for another fleet in the north, argument for a fleet in the south that can go down into Bosnia. And I would probably build an army and say that it was because that's the most flexible thing defensively. And right now he's probably on the defense unless he can somehow switch Liam over to just go into Germany or even to attack France. Turkey's build almost certainly needs to be a fleet. So I don't think that's much of a choice, and probably Smyrna would make the most sense. I think he's probably got the armies he needs for now, so he's got to build a fleet. The question mark we've got here is, does Liam decide that, yes, France is going to build in the south, which is why I'm going to build in London or build in Liverpool and change my tack? I don't think he's going to do that. but that would be the only sort of aggressive-ish thing that I could see here that would totally change the equation. I don't see France building in Brest and going north. That just wouldn't make sense to me.
I agree with you on all accounts, and I think the critical one is Army St. Petersburg, and I think that's what Riaz is going to build. Fleet Liverpool would be hilarious, but it would be a hilarious, chaotic build. But I'm hoping Liam, has got the sense to stay the course here, because I think that's what he's got to do. Army
Warsaw. After all that,
Army Warsaw.
He may think that he's riding off the north, which sometimes as Russia you have to do. Sometimes you have to do that. Or he's making a diplomatic pitch to Liam. Hey, man, go into Germany. I can help you.
It's fascinating. I mean, it looks like a write off of the North to me, or maybe it's a pitch, or maybe it's both. But maybe it's Riaz saying, I got to make gains elsewhere. I can't hold the North anyway, so I'm going to try to just be aggressive elsewhere.
I don't really like Fleet Khan.
Fleet Khan is not a good choice here.
I understand that maybe the Black Sea or something you're going to rearrange, but you don't rearrange when your fleet is in Trieste. There's not even anything you can do. No. If you and Riaz start fighting, you lose the fight. You got to make sure you don't keep fighting.
You can force Smyrna. You can force Eastern Med if you're in Smyrna. You can't do it in Khan.
Right. He holds. Yeah. Cody doesn't know what to do here, so he's sort of doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I think, we saw a little bit of this in the previous game where Cody was playing Italy, where he kind of equivocated a lot of turns. It's kind of understandable. I mean, this is a position that's hard to figure out what to deal with. I don't know why he's attacking Budapest. That was never going to work. It was, you're just potentially giving yourself, making an enemy out of the person you've been trying to work with, and you have no position to actually attack. So I don't know why you do that here.
I think Cody probably ran out of time or something here, because there's no reason, if you either order to Aegean as you supported from Greece, or hold with support from Khan. He does neither one. I think he just ran out of time. And sometimes that can happen to you.
To me, the bigger story is the Italians not making any moves to defend against the French. And the consequence of that is that the French walk right into Tunis, walk into the Tyrrhenian Sea, and, have a shot at a second dot in the fall. It's interesting that he pulls one fleet back to Mao. That seems like I'm just protecting myself in the event that Norwegian goes to North Atlantic and North goes to the Channel, or something funny like that, which makes, I think it's a smart play on Timothy's part. And then otherwise, it's kind of a whole lot of nothing, except France continuing to make progress by pushing into Ruhr.
Yeah, I actually not sure I like the North Africa to Mid-Atlantic move. You may be souring the milk with Liam here. We'll see.
Well, I think you can completely justify it based on what I was just saying. It's just like, hey, I need one fleet to kind of sit in the Mid-Atlantic just in case you do something funny, or maybe I'll put it in Spain or Portugal or park it out, but I can't, completely leave myself vulnerable if you suddenly shift a few fleets against me.
I think I would have taken the chance, go to Tunis, go to Tyrrhenian Sea, go to Tuscany.
Yeah, I mean,
that's 2 units on Rome.
It's such an incredibly strong move, and the worst case scenario is you get 1 dotted for Brest while you're taking 2 to 3 dots in the south. I tend to agree with you, because then you can just build an army in Paris or something and plop it in Gascony as protection after that.
Adam, you said it was kind of a non-move, but I do think what's crystal clear to me is we've got agreement between Russia and England to move against Germany. So that explains why we didn't have the army build in St. Pete. Riaz was confident enough in those negotiations.
You're right. I missed that. And it's a really, really important point, because Denmark dropping into Helgoland is just such a huge game changer, right? And the fact that he does that's what Liam does, rather than convoying to Norway with support. Again, this is Riaz, I think, working some magic, which is great for him. But, it buys him time, but I don't know what time does for him if ultimately his position doesn't get stronger up there, because Liam's is going to get stronger as well. And so Norway will be there later.
Yeah, at some point, Riaz may have to pull the trigger and take some Turkish stuff because he can't really rely on Turkey.
After what Turkey just did, I would imagine he's got to do something right now. But
He
no,
doesn't, though.
no. Well, Turkey goes back to script here. So
Look at France, who has pulled out and not even taking Tunis. He's there to help the Italians against those evil Turks.
wow.
I may have made that argument in my past.
I mean, I guess you're getting Munich, so you're still growing. So Naples, Tunis, all that stuff's there for you later, right? So I guess why not?
And whatever deal he had in the spring with Liam, Riaz has no deal with Liam in the fall. Loses Norway.
Yeah, I mean that was the issue, right? Because it was always there for him. So he basically what he accomplished was letting Liam get an extra dot from Kiel was the outcome of that.
Well, he thought he had a shot of turning.
Yeah, no, it was worth it for what it was. But now Liam is looking pretty good. Timothy is still looking good. Riaz, Turkey, a little less so maybe. And look at Italy building 2.
Yeah, that's the downside for Tim. Like
So what you just did, man. Why? That's the problem of pulling out, right?
I like the thought. I really do. It's very patient play. I always respect patient play, but in this case, I mean, I don't know if you could have predicted the disband here, but still, it's going to be a lot harder to take those units in the boot now. So, are you slowing Turkey down, or are you slowing yourself down?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of easy to say that as armchair quarterbacks here, but if I was calling the plays, I would have just gone ahead and attacked the Italian centers and taken them. Cody was not doing anything aggressive. He was sort of staying put. And I think you just go ahead and take the Italian stuff right there and then. Although look at the English build.
Army Liverpool, why not?
Because he's about to not have anything left to take, so he's going to have to start doing. I'm talking about Liam's going to have to start doing something else.
Well, I mean, it's interesting choice to. I mean, I guess you got to build a fleet here. Yeah, I mean, you got Berlin and you got St. Petersburg, which gets you to 9 centers if you're not fighting with France. But here, France is building Fleet Brest. I don't know.
I mean, France went back to Mid-Atlantic and then didn't take Italian stuff. So if you're England, you got to wonder what exactly Tim is up to.
Yeah.
Well, they have a little bit of a ranged bounce in the English Channel there is what they're doing.
Well, now we know what France is up to. They're going to take Rome and Tunis right now.
Gosh, that's a good reaction, I think, to that turn, to have Italy do what Italy did and then take 2 things from them.
A little bit of
can't be taken back, right? Rome cannot be taken back.
Rome cannot be taken back.
The Holland holds order. Is that what you're talking about?
It's going to be.
What did we miss that Tim's saying we missed?
In the fall. He supported the English to Kiel, it looks like.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Okay. I mean, yeah, because it was theoretically an EF. The question is, what do they do in the spring? I guess let's go back and see what they did in the spring.
They all bounced in channel.
Yeah, that's right. They had the bounce. Yeah.
I mean, this again, this is all logical play, I guess. I mean, Liam is losing a little bit of my momentum by going to Norway rather than Finland here, but I guess he feels like he's got to do that. So I'm not sure why London to English Channel is necessary. If France is going to stab you, he's going to support himself to the channel here, I think. So
yeah, I would have preferred to see London move to north, and
I mean, if you're doing a 3, yeah, I mean, but I mean, if France is asking you to bounce them in English, you got to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the negotiations clearly, but I just say good on Tim for making that deal with Christian. That's well done.
All right,
Well,
so
what-
Cody
what-
goes
yeah,
to
right.
English. Okay, I'm sorry. Cody goes to Bulgaria East Coast and then holds. Okay. Cody really has gone into just sort of a holding pattern, literally.
Yeah.
Which, he's only one away from the lead. So that's, if he can figure out some way for this to work out for him, then great.
Not for long though, right? Because now Tim's up to 10.
Yeah.
I think this may end here.
So Liam and Riaz are back to being friendly here. They're putting putting Riaz in Berlin.
I think this is going to end right here. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see what the center count is.
I think it's going to end with Tim on top at 9. But
988.
yeah.
Wouldn't have to end. I mean, I guess the question is, who would say no here?
I mean,
if they had some kind of deal.
Does Riaz want to fight Turkey? I don't think he does. I don't think Riaz wants to fight Turkey here. I mean, why would Tim say no on top? Liam's not. He's got 1, maybe 2 centers to gain. I don't know. I think it ends here. Let's see.
Christian could say no.
Christian could say no. I don't know why.
No, Riaz could say no here, I think.
I mean, it's not a lot going. Look at the moves. It's not a lot happening right now, right? So,
all right. So let's see. I'm gonna push forward, assuming that we are just positioning to try and force a draw. There's probably
maybe
a
not.
lot.
Maybe not though. Now Cody's in the Ionian. There's some guesses over whether Tim supports Rome or goes back to cover Tunis. I mean, there's a whole lot of units that aren't doing much, but Vienna went to Tyrolia. I mean, I don't know. Some stuff, because, there's some stuff that could happen in the fall now. Yeah, okay.
We're not. Okay.
Makes sense.
All right. Another fun game. David, what's your take?
Well, first of all, if we've been watching VDL and Tour of Britain at all during this season, we know that Tim is having quite a year, first of all. And when I questioned him earlier, when he didn't put the hammer on Italy, maybe that was a bad question on my part. I still think it's amazing that he came out on top here and that everybody agreed to it. I just think it's amazing that nobody thought they could do better here. With 2 more game years to go, was there no chance, for example, for England and Russia to coordinate against Munich or whatever else they could, Belgium, whatever else they thought they could do? I just think it's a little surprising. The fact that didn't happen might just be that Tim is a good diplomat, and guess what? He is.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cody's passive play could probably have opened up opportunities to Riaz, but I just sort of wonder if Riaz just didn't want to stab him, right? Riaz may have just said, "I want to work. I don't really want to do that," and I think that would also be very characteristic. If he felt good about the alliance, that he was just like, you know what, that's not how I'm going to do this game, and this is an okay result for me.
I do think Cody probably lost a chance to come out on top himself by playing so passively there. For the last couple of game years, he really hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
I don't know Cody. I am going to speculate here. When I've seen this kind of play, it's often someone who's a little bit newer to the game, gets some success, and is happy with this position, and that would be what I suspect. And I think good on Riaz for not taking advantage of that, and good for Cody for coming back after a rough game and coming in with 7 centers. That's not, as Turkey, no less. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, no, I definitely.
Cody did not, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say I definitely agree. I mean, I think after the previous game is Italy, I think there probably was some reactivity to how things went there, and I think this is a pretty decent result in a really tough board full of many experienced players. So I don't think there's any shame in the performance. I think Cody has done pretty well overall.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is not a bad game for Cody by any means. I just thought he had a chance. He would have had a chance to take the lead in the game if he'd have been a little more aggressive towards the end.
Yeah. I think of all the players on the board, the one with the biggest upside, in my opinion, is Liam. And I think that if Riaz and Liam work together, I think it is a bigger upside for Liam than it is for Riaz. So I could understand Riaz not wanting to take that risk. But I don't know if it's certain enough. Like I can kind of see why Liam would go ahead and take it here.
I think, the converse, I agree with you completely, Brian. I think the flip side of it is, Liam's position is a bit awkward for making a move on France here, right? You got that fleet stuck in the Helgoland, which really can't do a whole lot and really can't get out because you're basically, if this game continues, you've got to imagine Tim's looking at this and saying, okay, now I can't bounce the English Channel. I got to support myself to the English Channel. And Liam's supporting himself to the English Channel, and nobody's getting to the English Channel. And actually, getting his fleets into position where they can do something against Tim is really hard, actually.
Well, another entertaining game. I can tell by the feedback from those in chat, there was a lot of intensity and emotion in this game. I think you can kind of see some of that coming through in some of these orders. Really, really fun one. And we got one more to go. So let's go ahead and transition us over to our final game of the night. And tonight we've got Hereditary, VDL 116. Austria, we've got Matthew Tatanci. England, Michalis Kamaridis. France, Brandon Dix. Welcome back, Brandon. It's been a while. Germany, we've got Jason Bennett. Italy looks like a new player, Mohammed A. Welcome, Mohammed. Thanks for playing with us. Russia, we've got Christian Brown, the busiest man in all of the Virtual Diplomacy League. And in Turkey, another new player, Samantha Zarko. Welcome, Samantha. Adam.
So was Christian playing on both of these boards? Because that actually would explain a lot if that's the case.
I will have to.
These
Yeah, because he was just playing on.
These are simultaneous boards, and Christian is playing on both of them. That certainly explains quite a bit of why certain things maybe were. I think we have to cut Christian a lot more slack than we did on that board if he was really kind of jumping back and forth. So I think that's always a very difficult thing to do in time games, and so interesting to note that now.
And Christian probably did that so they could fill out two boards. And so thanks, Christian, for
I
doing
think
that so that people could play that.
Many of us, I think probably all three of us have done that at various points in our diplomacy careers, and it is a extraordinary challenge. This is a cool board. There's some players here who I'm less familiar with. I see that Matthew and Brandon, who I'm less familiar with, but both have played in a number of DBN games. Mohammed and Samantha, who both look like they're playing their first DDL games, along with regulars like McCarlos. Should be fairly interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, McCarlos hasn't played much lately, so it's fun to see him back playing.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. This is our final game. We're going to push through, try and pick up the pace a little bit. Spring of 1901. David, I'm going to have you on play-by-play, and let's go.
All right. The two-army move from France is an interesting opening. I think I've said this before. I like that opening a lot. Put some units at the line. Do we see anything else that's unusual? The Turkish opening, as I've said many times, was a standard opening for a long time and has become less standard here, but the Turks are using it. The two armies from the Italians. That is also a move that I used to see a lot more in the past than I've seen lately. It's fun, gives you a lot of flexibility in the fall for what you want to do. Are you going to continue on in north into Munich and then move in? Sometimes you do that. Sometimes you use that to attack Trieste. I've even seen the Italians go around the Austrians as part of an AI, and you put in I think there's a move, it's called the Alpine something or other, where you move up there and move around the Austrians and go fight the Russians. All sorts of possibilities here. I can't wait to see which one it is. It's the go to the north thing. So you go north as the Italians, and you're trying to go keep that stuff because you're moving another army up as well. So fun with French support is even more fun. You see, France can do that kind of thing if you've got two units up there, and he takes Belgium without any fight. He's got England and Germany bouncing in Holland. So Brandon's loving this. He's got a helper against the Germans. He's got apparently a strong alliance with the English. Could be off to the races. The Turks in the east doing the ineffectual move into Romania, which is fine. What that means is you get to get in the Black Sea. So it's certainly an anti-Russian move that the Turks just made. And the Austrians, instead of keeping the Russians out of Galicia, were worried about the Italian attacks, so supported themselves to Trieste.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only comment I'll make is, Jason may, this is totally brutal for the Germans not building in 1901. They at least made the wise move not to bounce the Russians from Sweden. Not that it really matters because they are, not in good shape.
And for their trouble, they get a French build of Fleet Marseille.
And a Russian build of Fleet St. Pete South Coast, no doubt.
Wow.
I'm
sorry, we were talking about two different people.
Let's just comment on those Italian builds.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Let's start with that. That I have never seen, I don't think. That's fascinating.
So I've always not always, as I have grown in my my experience with Italy, I think that the natural assumption is that being in the Mediterranean, Italian players should build mini fleets. I am of the opinion Italians should build only as many fleets as necessary. I think a successful Italian is building armies. I don't think that's true in spring of 1901.
The number of fleets necessary might be more than one. I'm not sure, Brian, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
If the French had built Fleet Brest and there was going to be an EF war, then it might be fun to try something like that. Who knows? Unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen with the Fleet Marseille.
If I'm France and I'm seeing this, I'm probably thinking, take Spain with an army and get that fleet out, huh?
Most likely. Although, listen, they may be working together, and this is a sleeper build from Marseille. Sometimes France does that.
Yeah, it could be. It could go to Spain and go around north. It's possible.
Yep. Just doesn't want to aggravate either England or Italy. Excuse me. So just builds there. The Italian army just marches.
I mean, you know what? If you can get away with this as Italy, why the heck not, right? You just got to get one more build so you can get that and the next fleet out. But I mean,
forget all this FI leaving each other alone thing. How about an active alliance within Germany where they're supporting each other and stuff?
Absolutely. I love it.
Man, it has been a while since I've seen this before, but it has been a long time.
I just want to know, what did Jason do on this board? Look at this. We've got Russia and Silesia and Prussia. I mean, what did he say to people? You got England and Denmark. We might see like a 1902 exit for Germany. Gosh.
Although the Russians are not in great shape. There's an AT.
Yeah. They just got kicked out of Romania. That's rough.
Yeah, I'm liking this AT position.
I'm liking the game because it's a different game. We're going to see some different stuff, and that's fun for everybody. It's fun for us, fun for the viewers. Strap on. Let's see what happens. Oh, Jason, my goodness. Hey, look, Jason survives in Kiel.
Woohoo!
Look at him. He's got a center left in 1902. Of course, the English have an army in Holland. Here comes the French into the Mediterranean. I guess it had to happen. So he had to go one way or the other.
So the English actually make it into. Of course, they make it into Holland. I mean, wow.
Christian wasn't sure what was going to happen. So instead of taking Baltic and getting into position, he had to worry about defending Sweden.
I guess the question at this point is now that England and France both get their builds, Germany is dead. What are you doing here? I mean, does McCarlos build like Fleet London, Fleet Liverpool, and just chug on down and let Italy do this crazy crap with the armies and take care of France, or do you go north? I mean, interesting.
Well, France is building, but they're probably building in Marseille. I mean, who knows?
Fleet Marseille, maybe.
Maybe Fleet, yeah. I don't know. McCarlos may be thinking that Germany is dead and it's time to go kill the Russians.
Yep. Yeah, they do have two fleets in the north, which is not generally good news for England.
I think they're in better position to hit Russia, but I have got my fingers crossed that they stick with this wild Italian build. It would be so much fun.
It is such a, but of course now the Turks can walk into Naples and all that kind of thing. I mean, there's a reason you generally build a fleet as Italy.
Well, we didn't say this, but the Turks are already in the Ionian, so that's bad.
That's
yeah, I mean this AT position is solid.
And that's what you do. You convoy to Armenia so that you can put 3 guys on Sev. Wow. AT, Astro Turk all the way,
Ooh.
baby.
Oof, beautiful.
Naples has been lost. Only with French help could they take it back. But, France does pull one of their fleets north just in case. We saw what happened last game when somebody did that. It kind of spooked the English a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of want to be in the Western Med right here, and there was not really much threat from the English, considering they had put an army in London. You really want to be Western Med, Tyrrhenian Sea, so you can force Tunis from this position.
Yeah, that's a little bit too cagey for my taste. Belgium takes Holland. I assume that's with acquiescence there.
Yeah, it's just following in after the English take Kiel, so that makes perfect sense.
Muhammad has so far not been able to make any progress with all of his big armies up there.
But look at this: Sweden can no longer be held.
Yeah, if England went that direction, there wasn't any great way for him to ever hold Sweden. So I guess he had to hope that this wouldn't happen. Maybe.
Yep.
I just want to give a shout out to Samantha. Great choices on this making the AT work. That's not always the easiest alliance to get up and running. Matthew, Samantha, the way you've separated, the balance that you've got, this is beautiful.
It's actually really great for Samantha, right? Because also the other thing is that Austria actually is under a little bit of pressure from Italy, which further just says like, hey, I don't have to worry about covering Bulgaria, right? Because, I mean, even if Austria wanted to dot me, there's not much of a risk of that unless they're playing crazy like.
And I didn't notice this earlier, but we do have Brandon following through Holland and Kiel. I'm assuming that's arranged.
Yeah.
Now the Italian empire in Germany is now officially gone, but that was going to happen. Wait a minute.
But the Kiel supported the Munich into Berlin, which makes perfect sense actually in this position because they're fighting the English. But Italy elects to instead run away.
Well, because they're getting French help to kick the Turks out of Naples, so that was the deal.
I mean, if you're getting French help, why not take the offer to get Berlin so you can get a build back home though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something to that because what do you care if the Russians hold it or you hold it?
That's right.
But the AT continues to rock here.
And this is just two dominating alliances. I think the EF is probably a little bit in better position right now, but we'll see.
So I guess the Austrians took Romania behind. Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Got it. All right.
I mean, there are 11 centers versus 15 centers, so there's definitely an advantage for the Western powers right now.
And they are mopping up Russian remnants. The English are.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're sort of running to the line here, aren't we?
Yeah, fast.
Gosh, the Italians, they're taking an Austrian center in Vienna. That's a good guess on their part, I guess. It's really the only thing they could do in that situation.
Yeah, they can't well, they could try to retake Venice, I guess, but it's a good guess for sure. So what happens here? The French take Tunis off of Turkey. Yeah, I mean, this is like an EF rowing across the board here.
Yeah, we said AstroTurk, but it's really the Leviathan that's got the jump on the east.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Russia's basically done, but you look at this. I mean, you got 3 builds for the West and none for the Eastern Alliance, right? The AI doesn't get anything. So, I mean, it's just, you know, the rich get richer. There's 18 centers between France and England versus only 11 centers between the Austrian and the Turk. And then you got Italy in the middle of the board, just kind of wait until they die. Same thing for Russia.
Now, here's the pivotal turn, though. Now that England's target is essentially dead.
Yeah, where does England go?
Is he going to spend all of his time getting units to take Warsaw and Moscow, or is he going to do something else? That's going to be the question.
Fleet London, Fleet Liverpool, David? You're going to build that here? Is that too much? Build an army, right? Build one army, one fleet.
I really don't think with the AT sticking together, and they'd probably prop up Russia. I just don't think England's going to make any more progress here. So I'd be tempted as England to think about rearranging. Maybe working with somebody else.
Russia is pulling 2, though, one of which is probably Bothnia. So you're not going to have any Russian units in the north to worry about.
And then you got a lot of fleets you can't do anything with except use as convoy agents, unless you want to go now against the French.
That's right.
I have played many draw size scoring games where I came in either 3rd or 4th with a Moscow Warsaw in this exact situation where both sides want to keep me there.
Nobody will take it. Yeah,
sitting around for a long time here.
2 armies.
That means he's going in. That means England's going into Russia. Is what that means.
Sticking together.
But you know, the AT just doesn't have the power in the Mediterranean to do enough.
No, they're trying to take out the Italians when they really have to worry about the French right now.
Well, the Italians were doing the French's bidding, so they had to do something.
Yep.
And now France is in the mid-Atlantic saying, "I'm here just in case, fella."
And nobody's going to take Naples because neither side can agree on who gets it. But the English get Moscow, which is huge because Moscow went to
moved. Yeah, it moved.
Yeah, England must have convinced Moscow to do that. Now it's interesting that they didn't try to convoy back out and they walked out of London. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he was going to Yorkshire just in case Mid-Atlantic was going to do something screwy, I guess. Because otherwise, you just go ahead and convoy to Denmark or Norway. And
France builds. Wow. Okay. So we're at a 10-10 situation here. Man, this is always the hard part of the game, right? Where you've got to decide, am I going to go for something really big here, or am I going to play this clean?
So one of my favorite things about this part of the game is you've got 2 alliances that if they stick together, they've got the units to keep growing and pushing. But with every center they move forward, the risk is getting higher and higher for both of them that one of them's going to take the lead and either get all the points or even solo.
Well, Brian, I think that's true for the EF. I'm not sure it's true for the AT.
Yes.
I don't see any world where the AT suddenly stab each other. I mean, unless there's like crazy play, but I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense until the EF, at least until the EF breaks, right?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was specifically referencing the stress in the EF.
Oh man, this is the intensity of that is nuts.
Yeah.
Well, but they're sticking together.
Mhm.
Based on the builds, it would seem.
I think that's probably smart. I mean, they've really got the East on the run here. Um,
I mean, if you're either one of them and you're thinking like, hey, maybe I got my, it's only 1906, we got 1910, 1911 for this game. I'm thinking, is 18 a possibility? I don't know in that time, but hey, if it's going to be a possibility, that's going to be gotten by pushing forward across the line. It's not going to be gotten by stabbing my ally.
and England had Russian and Italian help there. That's so important to stay in touch with the little guys in a situation like this that are just out for revenge or survival or both.
But man, the big just keep getting bigger. I mean, they are just crushing the other side of the board.
Yeah, and I'm moving through this quickly, but the tactical decisions that are being made here, very solid choices.
I mean, look at this. England is in Vienna, right? I mean, when England has an army in Vienna and they can even potentially hold it there, I mean, this is a game that is. I mean, we're talking. It's 1906. This isn't 1910. I mean, this is a game that could potentially be going towards a very large result for somebody. Oh, he didn't. He didn't hold Vienna. Okay, I stand corrected. Wait, what? How did Turkey end up getting two? Turkey stabbed Austria here.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He retreated into Romania and then took Greece.
Retreating into Romania seems fine, but taking Greece seems ill-advised.
That's probably true, although Austria couldn't build. So that
But they didn't disband. They didn't disband.
right.
Oh,
I think they would otherwise have built. So
okay.
I think maybe this was arranged somehow. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, if Austria pulls back, then we know. But
Yeah, so Mikhail is saying
Yeah.
broke the
Yes,
line.
he did.
And
I mean, yeah. When you're in,
yeah.
I mean, it's writing on the wall on one hand. On the other hand, it's like prolonging the inevitable. I guess we're going into the Black Sea, which makes sense. Yeah. I mean, this is just bad. Oh boy.
Hey, do they have time to get to a 17-17? That'll make everyone else's head explode but mine.
There is no 17-17 on this board, Mr. Hood. This is to the death, or as we say, to the pain.
So who's got the advantage?
Holy crap! We have 14-12 right now, and at the end of 1907. Wow. Oh my goodness. Hold on. We gotta pause for a second and talk about this. This is just we've gone too fast. Wow.
The advantage is French, by the way.
It is definitely French.
Because England, surprisingly, has a lot of fleets that may or may not be able to be used defensively or offensively as well against the French. Look at them for the middle of the board, for example.
Yeah.
And that's assuming there's going to be a conflict. We don't know. There might not even be a conflict.
I mean, if you're France in this position, you almost don't even need to stab England to get 18 potentially. So, they are so through on this line, and depending on what Austria disbands.
Now, the English do have the North Sea. That's not irrelevant.
So
They
you're
could
going
take
to build.
Holland right here if they wanted to. I mean, there could be some rearrangement here.
You're going to build two armies in Fleet Brest if you're France, right?
Probably so. I like that.
Or three armies.
They're sticking together.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot read this any other way. These guys are sticking together, at least for now.
Are we going to have a 17-17 vomit fest here, David?
I said it was going to make everybody's head explode but mine. I'm going to enjoy it if they do that. I'm going to think that's fun. The rest of you are going to go,
I do appreciate Christian in Warsaw supporting the English into Ukraine.
Oh, he's been doing that over and over again.
I very much appreciate that. I mean, he's playing on two boards, and so he's saying, anybody wants to talk to me, can I do something useful for you? I'll do it for you. And
well, he's thinking this is his only way to maybe survive, and he's probably right.
Yeah, he might decide whether or not somebody goes to 17-17 or not.
Let's see what happens here.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know, but the English are in Armenia, and that is nothing but fun for us watching this game. English Channel, North Atlantic.
And North Atlantic Ocean.
And Holland.
Mid-Atlantic.
And we attack Kiel.
The French are in the Aegean. I mean, this
Here
is
it
going to
comes.
be fun. This is going to be fun.
This is Brandon making his play, though. I mean, oh boy, what are we at?
All
We're
right.
at 15-12. Can we what are your 18 if you're France here? Can you hold what you got, and can you get 3 more? I feel like you can get Kiel.
He's got 4 moves to do it, too, so he's got to guess correctly here.
Oh, are we sure it ends after 1910? It's a time.
No,
right?
it could be 1911 or
Oh, okay, that's true. It's a time limit's
unusually
not a year
12.
limit.
It also could be 09, depending on how slow they were.
I mean, McCarless has 3 armies on the island. He's not getting any of England, right? I mean, I think we can probably rule that
And
out.
Turkey's building 2, so that's also going to be a difficult one to break through.
Can you even hold Greece?
Yeah, there's some guesses involved.
Oh boy.
I
All
think.
right, so they're moving fast.
Okay, all right, that's fine, McCarless. I mean, I don't think a solo is likely because there's still, units that McCarless can even use here. The Austrians, he can support them if they're not too mad at him. I don't know. It seems unlikely to me that Brandon can force this, but we shall see. I am enjoying this game. Are you guys enjoying watching it?
Oh, absolutely.
Regardless, it's super fun to talk about it.
Putting everything else aside, we have seen some games where people have gone back and forth, balance of power. It's also fun to just do a strong alliance and race and see who gets the most presenters. That's fun.
And to some extent, they're kind of less trusting each other right now, it would seem.
I think they're jockeying for position here.
For sure. So Aegean holds, doesn't go to Greece because you don't want to back up because you want to end in Aegean. I guess you can kick them out of Greece now because you're in Albania. So which is what you do, but you lose Trieste. And why are we pulling out of Holland? Why are we doing that? Brandon, what are we doing? Why are we giving dots to McCarless? You're not supposed to give dots away. Come on, dude.
Maybe he's decided that this game's going to end.
No, don't do that. You don't want to do that. Don't give dots away. You got 15-12. Come on. And Armenia to Syria with support.
13-13.
These folks are breaking my heart.
Oh, we're still playing.
They're continuing to play.
Still playing.
Because we're going to support England.
How many times has Christian supported an English unit either to Galicia or Ukraine already in this game? A lot. That has been a useful unit.
Why did we go from being up 15-12 to 13-13 to supporting the English forward, and now letting England getting more units onto the continent? Oh, come on, Brandon. Come on.
No, they've made a deal.
Stay with me, Brandon. Stay with me, man. You're supposed to be going for 18, not for 14 or 13. Come on, man.
Made a deal. Look, he's getting units because the English are supporting him into them.
Yeah.
You got Smyrna. Okay, he got a bunch here. Well,
I cannot wait for the only issue.
Oh, come on, no.
No, we can't because there's no way to contain Warsaw when you try to take it back. So there can't be a 17-17.
Oh my
Told you
God!
Warsaw could be the
Warsaw
difference.
back there by himself. There's no way to do anything about that.
What are we doing?
Armies.
Who tops this board?
They're gonna end at 16-16, right?
I think they're going to take Serbia and Ankara out first.
17-16?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 16-16. Maybe 16-16. Take Serbia.
Brandon going for Budapest. but he loses Smyrna. No, he's not going for Budapest. What is he doing?
They're
They're
trying to figure
they're
out
taking
how
Warsaw.
to take Warsaw out.
Yep.
Is what they're doing.
Yep.
No, but Brandon can now. I think Brandon can now take 18 for the fall. Hold on. I think he can take.
Well, he lost. He moved. He left Smyrna, right?
Yeah, but he can retake Smyrna,
Ah.
and he can take Serbia. He can take 18 right here.
He's got to take. Can he take Belgium back? Yes.
And he can take Belgium back. He cuts Holland. Well, I mean, yeah, he cuts Holland. I mean, he might lose Munich. No, Bohemia supports Munich.
Yeah.
He can take 18 right here. Maybe. No, he cuts Budapest, right, which is the right thing to do.
Whew, that was a risky turn.
I'm just trying to think, is there a way he can take 18? Budapest, I mean, if he guesses right, he'd have to guess right, but he's at 16-16. They're going to call a draw now, unfortunately. But
yep, there it is.
Yeah.
Whew. All right,
out.
David. What did we just watch?
A strong alliance, and even though there was jockeying by probably both of them to see if they could do better, they're happy with a strong alliance, complete domination of the game. They probably had fun doing that, and 101 points, tied at 101 points. That is absolutely nothing to sneeze at.
That is.
So this goes to show you, just like we've seen good balance of power play in VDL over this season and tonight, this just goes to show you that if you play strong alliance, you can also do really well under this scoring system, and you can have fun at the same time.
Totally agree. And I also would say that, this is also how solos happen, right? Is strong alliance, and then something happened at the end game. And I think that either of them probably could have made the decision that, hey, that's what I want out of this game. And they didn't in this case, but, pushing across the line, being in lockstep with your ally, man, there's something to be said for that.
Now, if Makarlis really wanted to take a shot to do better, he would have had to clear Warsaw out earlier when he could have.
That's right.
Because leaving that guy back there meant he never really could take a shot, and maybe he didn't care.
That's right.
What I loved about this is we had the race. It was beautiful. I cannot speak highly enough about the choices that Brandon and Michaelis made right in the center of the board to break through the line. Just amazing tactics, great commitment to the alliance, recognition that scores could be higher by working together. But what I loved about it is the tension that was building through this whole game. Yes, there's always the risk of the solo, but there was also the risk of one person choosing to go higher than the other and not tying, because that creates a pretty large points difference in the scoring system between the two of them. So there's a lot of tension in that alliance, putting pressure, and that constant little devil on the shoulder whispering, am I going to do it? Am I going to do it? And they did not, which good for them. If they had done it, that would have been great for us. But either way, the tension, I can still feel that energy myself. This was a really, really fun game.
I'm beginning to think that Makarlis or Brandon or both are actually pretty good at this game.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I mean, Matthew and Samantha, that AT, like, that was solid. They just got outpaced, but they were also moving really nicely. That was another really good alliance to see.
That's a point for people who are maybe watching this game that don't know it very well yet. That is always going to happen. The East is always going to take slower to resolve than the West if you've got two fast-moving alliances, because there's two enemies to kill in the East and only one in the West. It's just it's an asymmetric part of the game. And the fact that Germany was taken down partially by Italy made it even harder for the AT to keep up. They tried the best they could. They played pretty well, but they just couldn't possibly catch the EF.
Oh, congratulations to them both, and to all 5 games for putting up some really, really good, entertaining games. It is October. We've got 2 more months of this left for Virtual Diplomacy League before our championship game. Stakes are going up. More games are being played. That's good for all of us here on League Night. Before we close out, I do want to welcome to our broadcast. We've got a guest interview. I believe it's the first time on stream. Jason, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jason, is this your first time on League Night?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for your games tonight. They were fun to watch. Let's pull up. Do you
The last
remember?
one was less fun. The last one was less
This
fun.
one was a lot less. The two games were exactly polar opposites. One was a lot of diplomacy, and the other one was a lot of balance of power, and very different.
Well, let's pull up. I think it was. Let me find it. Which game was that? Do you remember the game number? Here it is. Rosemary's Baby 114. So we'll take a look at this game.
Now, that was a bloody slugfest, and so was the game.
So, all right. So, Jason, very, very solid 100 points, 10 center Russian top. Very impressive. We'll start out at the beginning of the game, not looking for a blow by blow, but mainly just looking for you to kind of tell the highlights. What was your thought going into the game here? Did you have a strategy? Were you kind of feeling people out? How were you approaching things at this point in the game?
Yeah, my primary goal in this first year was just to get 2 builds and see if I had folks to work with. Wes was talking to me. Hal was talking to me. Ian was talking to me as well. So I felt like I wasn't going to be quickly targeted in the north. And then Russ and I were moving okay. As soon as that army actually went into Constantinople, I felt like I could probably work with Russ for a while because I didn't have the immediate pressure on the Black Sea in the same way that I could have. So so that kind of meant for me, just don't push too hard, wait for there to be the right set of openings and the right set of moves, and pick up a couple more centers without looking too big too fast.
Moving on here, you've got the army in St. Pete. The second build that Russia chooses to do in 1901 when they get it is always interesting to me. What was your reasoning for the army in this case?
I didn't want to be threatening yet to either Wes or Hal. And I felt like my best opportunity was probably going to be to get Norway, and that I probably wanted to put an army in there so that I could continue to work with Wes, even though I was probably going to take a center from him at some point. You know, that was kind of what we ended up being able to work out here. Because I think I supported him into Denmark while taking Norway.
Yep. Yeah, that's right here. So
Now,
I
did not expect him in Belgium. That was unexpected to me, and I might not have done it quite that same way if I'd realized he was picking up Belgium.
just moving through, looking for some bigger turns. So right here, for example, in the south or in the east, you're kind of playing defense up north. What's going on down here at this point? We've got a little bit of, well, this dipsy doodle going on between Ed and Christian. Do you have any insight about what were you thinking?
The follow to was actually a lot more critical than it appeared. I told Christian asked me to bounce him in Serbia, which I was fine doing, but Ed did not know that was supposed to happen. So Ed lost Trieste, at least that's what he told me as a result. which led him to, I think, make the big move that he did later that next year
Mhm.
that kind of opened up the game a little bit for me.
What was the diplomatic situation like? Just was it tense? Were people jovial? Like what, confused?
There was quite a bit of frustration after fall of '03. Christian was irritated at Ed. I think Russ and I were both a little bit hopeful that that meant we had some opening here and some opportunity to each pick up a center or two as a result of it. So that ended up, being really critical.
Were you worried about Wes at this point, or did you feel like Wes was on side?
Yeah, I felt like Wes was still on side. There was a potential that he was going to try for something, but I think Ian was making enough momentum that he couldn't completely take his eye off of that. And I don't think Ian was sending very many signals about heading over towards Ed. And in fact, right here was actually fairly worrisome. And I think what helped me work a little bit more closely with Russ actually was it looked like there was a really strong France-Italy that could run away if we made the wrong set of moves for the rest of us. And so we started doing quite a bit more balance of power, I think, at that point.
Yeah, so this is the moment where it looks like everybody started moving on Austria. Was this a three-way coordination, or did it just work out that way?
So I think this is where Christian wanted to get Trieste back from Ed. And so that created an opening to get Budapest and an opening for Russ to get Greece. And then there was kind of a decision to just sort of pause for a season and see what came out of that. And I also started to make a little bit of a move up north as I felt like there was starting to become an opening for me when I was going to pick up a build.
So did you feel like it was RT off to the races at this point in the game? And was that, if so, was that shared by Russ, or was it still sort of everybody kind of still wheedling their way through how to advance the position here?
I think we were all still working through how to get there. I felt like that there was a lot of opportunity for RT at this point, and I said as much to Russ. I said I think he really had the opportunity to pick up all of the Italian boot and to press on to Trieste here, and that I would have some play in the north, but that there wouldn't be a lot. That obviously wasn't a pitch that worked. Russ was actually starting to get worried that there were not enough fleets actually to counteract France, and I think if we talked about that more, we might have worked something different out. Because I got stabbed the next season in Budapest. That I think I saw that coming because there were a couple comments that weren't quite what I was expecting, but I guessed wrong by protecting Romania. I thought Russ might be making his move there. I wasn't as confident that that was happening in Budapest.
But going back to end of 1904, if Russ was complaining about the lack of fleets, isn't his then building an army here sort of
No,
sending?
it was in 1905, I think, when he saw
Okay.
the momentum then that Ian was getting. I think he's had some concern about not enough fleet power.
Okay, got it.
And we just were unable to really have a good conversation, I think, to all get on that same page. Because I
Got
think
it.
I would have agreed with them that we needed to balance that power a little bit.
He does build a fleet here, though, right?
Yes.
He builds an army and a fleet, but he puts the fleet in the wrong place for you. So he's clearly not sending the message that, hey, I'm attacking Italy
Right.
with this set of builds. It's actually entirely the opposite.
Right. So I think I actually had a good made a good decision here on going Sev to Armenia to
Yeah.
slow Rus down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
definitely. Great
enough
move.
to try to keep the diplomacy going.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's definitely the right move.
so I did get a little bit lucky the next season that I didn't lose Sev. I expected to, actually, but I still felt like I had better options to sort of have that conversation with Russ, um, and um, than if I'd tried something different at that point.
Well, the moves that you made in the north definitely gave you the units to help make that diplomacy happen.
Right. That's right.
This was an interesting one that we talked about a little bit about the choice to go Denmark to Kiel rather than Baltic to Kiel.
Yeah, I thought I might be getting tapped in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I probably shouldn't have based on where Wales and English was, but I knew they were starting to work together because of the Ed's build there in Rome and Tunis. And so I knew that they were not working as closely together. So I kind of felt like I wanted to keep a little pressure on Hal at that point
Mhm.
and um, try to maybe not look as threatening actually to Ian. I think I was as much concerned about Ian at that point as I was, um, but in hindsight, I don't know if I may have overthought that in the time that I had, but I did get tipped off that he was moving to Norway, and so I think I had originally planned to go to Denmark and follow it up and pick up
Mhm.
both centers that way, with the thought that I would then have an army and a fleet on Berlin, with hopefully at least a build maybe coming out of Warsaw that would give me an opportunity to have
Who
armies in slightly better position than an army stuck in Denmark.
who tipped you off?
Ian did.
Okay.
And this was the part, I think this was what was remarkable to me because this is just such a terrible turn for you. And the way you fought back over it over the next couple of turns to really just diplomatically and tactically keep yourself in this game was just remarkable, right? I mean, I mean, you're building two, but it's largely because you lost units, right? But I thought that was kind of quite impressive how you came back from this.
Yeah, there was some draw votes happening in the background that weren't reflected here that led to some of Russ walking back out.
I see.
He was up for a draw, and there was a veto somewhere. It wasn't clear where it was. And I think what Russ concluded was Russ's view was that he would rather have me win than Ian at that point, and he was going to try to be supportive of that. So the moves in late 07 and all through 08, I think, are adjustments trying to figure out who was doing the vetoes.
Well, he sets himself up to attack you nicely in 1909 and then pulls out of it. So let's look at that. So that was the move that we were surprised. I was at least
Right.
surprised.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, in
Yeah,
1909.
and
Oh, wait, and then he pulled back, and then he
I
probably
said my years wrong, but it was the one
yeah,
time before that.
I think he thought that I vetoed, and so he was setting up potentially, if that was the case, to try to figure out where the veto had come from. And when I did the series of moves I did, I persuaded him. I said, "Look, if I was going after you, I would have taken Budapest, or I would have taken a shot at Budapest. You would have felt pressure from me." I said, I was doing other moves. You saw me move in different directions. And so I think that was persuasive for him.
Well, it was a complete game, north and south. That's how you have to win with Russia. To me, this is a game where you saw the fragility of the power and the resiliency of the power, which can both simultaneously be true with Russia. That's why it's my favorite one to play. It's such a knife's edge; it can go either way. But you just played it really well, and you had a complete game. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I think in contrast to my other game, working with Germany some made a difference rather than see Germany collapse too quickly, which then opened it up in a way that was completely unbalanced, and probably France would have then won this game that we just went through.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us. And as Kat pointed out, thank you for doing your best Adam impression for Halloween. And have a great night.
Thank you.
And Adam and David, thank you both for joining us. Adam, for being there from the start of the show, being willing to go all the way through with us as the duo, and David for making it not a duo. So very much appreciated for you jumping in. So.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
This was a blast. Congrats to everyone. And it was great seeing some familiar faces and some new faces. And looking forward to seeing you all next month and seeing how it goes in the next round of games.
Yep.
David, any closing thoughts on the night?
Well, I know I've already said this, but it was a lot of fun, particularly the balance of power game and then the strong alliance game, just to show the contrast of how we play diplomacy differently in different situations and how it can all be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for me, I just will second the variety of the games that we saw tonight. Probably the most variety that I've seen within VDL, which is very, very healthy for the league. And then to see the players coming back, starting to compete, always exciting. So, Adam, since you've been here the whole way from the start, why don't you sign us out, give us your best Siobhan impersonation, and close us out for the tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe and stab well.
All right. Thanks, everybody.